In a world without justice, one man was chosen to protect the innocent and to make the wrong things right.
It's not a good day to be a bad guy.
The film the critics are calling dazzling and fiercely hypnotic.
Bye-bye, Ernie.
Brandon Lee is sensational. A triumph. Brandon Lee.
I love you.
The Crow. Rated R. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Rolling on both.
Awesome.
Is it?
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. That's a great way to start the show. I mean, as if it wasn't enough that I have to put a warning at the beginning that if anyone has recently watched American History X,
Why is it
they need to be prepared for your haircut.
every time I shave my head that's the joke?
Well, first of all, I mean, you answered your question with the every time because you do it enough that, you know, a good joke is worth remembering.
Yeah, but this was kind of a mental health shave this time around.
Do I dare?
I mean, I'm not going to go into it much.
Wonder.
No, I'm not going to go into it much this time.
Okay, because I mean, like, in general, shaving your head for mental health is not
Manic.
considered a
It was a
good
manic
thing.
episode. No, it was 100% a manic episode.
This is the first I'm hearing about it.
No, I texted you right after it happened. When I said, have I been off to you lately?
Oh, well, no, there's that, but you didn't
Yeah.
say I shaved my head
Yeah.
in a manic episode.
No, because I mean, it didn't really have a reason to say that just yet.
So you saved it for now when I was trying to politely banter about your haircut.
Basically, yeah, sure.
I mean, if I had known that you shaved your head out of a moment of a mental struggle, I probably wouldn't have made a joke about you looking like a skinhead from American History X, at least not
Yeah.
so immediately.
Yeah.
I might have tried to like cushion it.
I did
instead.
also make a Facebook post that said sometimes you have to shave your head and clean your apartment, and then all about mental health.
I know, if only I should have read it. I wasn't doing anything over the weekend. I was definitely on the web the whole time. I mean, I did see that you were cleaning your apartment.
Yeah, which it definitely needed it.
Whose doesn't?
Well, my situation. So basically, what led to me getting rid of my hair was a combination of I had my 6-month review at work, and then also on top of that too, like I had been struggling. I mean, as I said on the show before, I'd been struggling with what to do with my hair, and it wasn't for anything of lack of not having solutions. It was lack of action.
You refuse to own a hairbrush.
Yeah, well, no, I own a hairbrush now. Like I own a hairbrush. It's more so like it didn't buy a hair dryer, didn't change my shower routine at all. I was in a very depressive state on and off for a bit, and it was just genuinely no guidance, like no path for me to go on. So I was just going loosey goosey. Which when I had my 6-month review, that was brought up, and I was honest with my boss on that matter too, because my boss is an awesome person. She is a cancer survivor. She's genuinely like one of the best bosses I've ever had, and she expressed concern. Like it wasn't even about work. It was mainly just like, hey, not even out here, not even in there. Like, you know, are you okay? I'm concerned, was like basically how she started, and I straight up told her, I was just like, you know, I just have felt very off, and I mean, there's no other easier way to say that. It was simply that. So
Sure.
When I got out of the meeting, it was a combination of told her that I was going to absolutely try to do better, obviously.
Mhm.
And I mean, and she was very receiving to the information, and also like had feedback for it, was like giving me mental health podcasts and like some stuff that she listened to as well. So it was a really good meeting. But when I got home, I was like, what's the one thing that I could possibly do that would show her that I not only heard her, but also that I'm like taking what she said to attention.
And you were like, kill a neighborhood cat.
Kill a neighborhood cat, indeed.
No, but
no, it was, and I can say it on here for the first time that like when I took my razor to my head and did that initial just stripe down the middle, which is usually how I start, it instantly just felt better. Just instantly felt better.
An electric razor,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like clippers.
Like a clippers.
Okay,
Yeah.
For a second,
not like a straight fucking razor.
Well, I
no,
didn't think it was a straight razor.
Yeah.
But I was like, not like a shaving razor.
No. Like electric clippers, and it was just that initial down the middle just immediately fell off my shoulders, and then 10 minutes later, I was looking in the mirror and I was just like, "Fuck, I feel so much better."
The freedom from being skunked. That's the term that like, especially like
hair that long and
pranks. Well, but just any shave right down the middle is called skunking.
Yeah. But no, when I say a manic episode, it was mainly I had texted several friends, you included, and had genuinely asked like, how have I been the last few months? I mean, honestly, most of 2025. We're as we're recording this, we're wrapping towards the end of April now. So I mean, we're almost into 5 months into the year, and it's been a struggle. But when I took the clippers to my hair and also decided that I was going to take my Friday off and clean my apartment top to bottom, which is what I did. And then the next day also went and got a chore like chart, basically like to put on my fridge and like keep myself in a routine, because that's what I need. Mm-hmm. That's what I came to the conclusion of, was that if I don't have a routine and just go at it loosey-goosey, I will lose my fucking mind, because I just don't have any balance, and I will not put my feet to the fire on action unless it needs to be. And that was kind of a wake up of just being like depression hairstyle, whatever we want to call it at this point. Like I didn't do anything with it. I picked it out. I, shampooed it and everything when I showered, didn't call a barber, didn't even try until literally that day. I tried to get into, I called text had like gone through like 3 of them, like right or after my meeting, had gotten on the website of a couple of them and checked. None of them had openings because it was Good Friday. It was Easter weekend, so everybody had appointments full.
Everybody was giving their hairs up for Lent.
Yeah, everybody was giving their hair up for Lent. But no, I mean, it was just you've made the comment that I've shaved my head before. Yeah, I have. I've gotten pretty damn good at it at this point, because I don't think you can really fuck it up.
Oh, okay. That was my look when you said you got pretty good at it. I was like, yeah, bud.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really fuck that up unless you just miss splashes, which I did a couple, but I plucked those on the drive to Piqua.
I mean, fair enough.
Not like patches, like it was just like a few stray hairs like behind my ear that I'd missed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, me on this show right now has probably felt the best I have in a couple months, honestly. Like it's just this past weekend has been a refresh for me. Looking at my apartment as a whole in regards to like cleaning it, I had been looking at dust bunnies. I had been looking at like, just stuff in the corners and whatnot, and had been like, yeah, I should get to that. You and I share a similarity though, that sometimes when I look at something that needs to be done cleaning wise, I'm like, that's going to take me all day, and talk myself out of it.
Yeah. Adderall helps with that.
I bet.
But I mean, but instead, I work all day.
Yeah.
I mean, my average days could be 12 hours or more. And I'll see the mess and be like, Jesus, I wish I had an hour.
Yeah.
Like I would kill to have that hour to clean that. That's been a big change since I started ADHD treatment.
Yeah.
I used to just completely avoid it. I just be like, forget it. Now I'm just like, if only I didn't always fill my cup with work.
I get that.
Which it's hard to explain. I was talking to somebody the other day, not to steal your thunder.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking to a friend, I think it was actually Michelle I was talking to about it, but I mentioned that the way I live is I wake up, I get out of bed, and then within 2 or 3 minutes, I am in my office and I am fully in work mode.
Yeah.
And she was just mortified. She was just kind of like, how? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know how. It's
just what you do.
It's my thing.
It's your routine. That is your routine.
Well, sure. And but most people, they have like a little bit of a transition time.
Yeah.
From awake. To work. The old cliche, like reading the funny pages and drinking your cup of coffee.
Do you think that you go directly to it because you just see your workload is never ending?
No, it's because it is never.
Yeah, no, I mean,
no. I mean, I
yeah.
was just being silly.
Yeah.
But no. I mean, that's part of it. I'm obsessed.
Mhm.
I was actually the other day, I was watching Top 5.
Mhm.
I love that movie, the Chris
Great
Rock movie.
Yeah.
I was rewatching it, and he mentioned, as an alcoholic, how he was at a restaurant and he saw a guy just leave his beer half drank on the table. And he was like, man, how do you do that? And that made me think of the story in Stephen King's autobiography
On Writing.
yeah, about how he had to, at the end of every night, he had to pour all the beers left down the drain because he couldn't sleep if there were beers in the house undrank.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that sucks to be that addicted. And I was in the middle of an incredible battle with my printer, with my disc printer, which is really important to a major facet of my business.
Was this before or after you had to run DOS to get it to work?
This was during.
During, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this was during.
Yeah.
And I had that moment where I was like, man, that would be really awful. And then I stopped dead and I was like, could I sleep if this problem were still going on? Maybe. I wouldn't be willing to say I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely had points where like I've been working, because problem solving is a massive part of my job.
Yeah.
I've had moments where, at about 1:30 in the morning, I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit it tomorrow. I'm not like literally manic about work.
Yeah.
Often, but last week was extra crunched because the plan was for the week to be easy. And then I had the oddities show get tacked on, which I'm happy about. I mean, it was a really cool experience, but because of that, then the week became normal load. And then when problems persisted or joined the call, then it became, you're screwed. You've got to work as hard and fast and long as you can.
Yeah.
And that is never fun. And I promised myself I was going to step away from that because I did that in October and November.
Yeah. You always
and in
do.
most of January.
Yeah.
And then leading up to Wasteland. So most of March was that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to ease up on
balance it
that.
out, yeah.
Sure. But it's important to keep in mind that a routine is very important, especially if you're relatively solo living. When I lived like all on my own in Jersey, my weekend, I had to have like a regimented weekend, or else it would just suck.
Yeah. I get that.
And like when I first started working for myself, the routine was pretty much non-existent because I didn't even know what the days would be like.
Makes sense.
Now things have grown to a point where there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And there's always something that could be done.
Yeah.
It used to be that I would sometimes spend 2 or 3 days just generating a new project or new thing to work on. And now I do that mindset. I do that mindset while I'm already on something else because there's so much to do. And it's a blessing and a curse because I mean, I was also like super broke all the time during that period where I could like run to the movies 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I was like dead ass broke. I would literally be like pushing together quarters to see if I could get a Coke at the theater because I'd be like, oh my God, like, so now it's like, I can get whatever I want at the movie theater if I can find the time to go.
I get that too. Yes.
So, but my point is you suck.
Yeah.
No. But no, my point is like, so do you feel like did you feel like you had a routine going and you lost it like from?
No, I'll be perfectly honest. When my partner and I split up last year, it was a situation to where we had a routine, obviously,
of course.
And I've got my routines in the sense of like, you and I record on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I've got stuff that happens like usually Thursdays, with another podcast or with friends or whatnot. And then Friday with you guys. So it's like, it's not that I don't necessarily have a routine. I don't have a routine for like you perfectly said it, my solo time. My solo time is spent a lot of me sitting in my apartment or thinking about being at my apartment, being free at my apartment to do all these things, and then overthinking every single fucking thing I could do and doing nothing instead.
David, this is a family show. No, there's a thing, and I'm trying to remember the name of it that I learned about when I first got my diagnosis, and it was called like revenge relaxation or something along those
talked about this, yeah.
And I think that's a thing that a lot of people deal with, where they'll have some time to themselves and then decide that they're not doing a good enough job doing something for fun.
It's not uncommon for me to pull, I don't want to say an all-nighter, but I mean, it's not uncommon for me. Like, so for example, Friday when the guys left my place, which was a little after 12:30 or so, I saw 7 a.m.
Jeez. Yeah, you have had, that's been a problem in the past that we've talked about.
And that was even after this, but that was mainly just the fact it was just like, had a day off, took the day off and cleaned. The guys came over, smoked cigars, ate pizza, watched movies, and then they left. And I was just like, I want to watch a couple things. And I did. But then I did realize, like, after a while, I was literally pushing myself to, like, stay awake for this movie. And it was just like, dude, I can go to bed anytime and finish this tomorrow.
Well, it's even weirder.
Or today.
It's even harder when you think about, like, you don't work Saturdays anymore.
No.
So you could literally get up whenever you want on Saturday and just pick up whatever you want.
Exactly.
But you kind of push yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something I've been really trying to fix on my end is, like, I have a really hard time with deciding what I'll do with the little bit of free time I get.
Yeah.
And then I'll end up wasting most of it. And then I'll be mad.
Yeah.
So I've been pushing myself to just, like, I have to watch this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
There's not a debate.
I basically, so along with the cleaning routine that I made for myself, I've also made it so that I make myself read a chapter of whatever book I'm reading a day. And it doesn't have to be just a chapter, meaning, if I'm reading and want to read more, obviously I can. But I need to have just that separation, at least. Either get my phone out of my hands, get anything distraction-wise away, and just, like, focus on my book. Because I love reading. And this year especially, like, I've been reading more than I have in the past, which has been enjoyable. Naturally, though, this, like, last month, I've barely touched my Fred Olen Ray book, and I'm in the last, like, 50 pages.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly, what is causing it. It's just, I mean, it could be a clump of things at this point. But what I solely realized in all of this in the past week is just that I have to have some kind of schedule. I have to be able to have something that I can look at and be like, okay, I need to get that done and that done. And then, also making progress for myself on whether keeping my apartment clean or just, like, tasks that I need to have done. That's been the hardest thing, is just kind of figuring out what's going to get me to do that. And luckily, I am now 3 days into having this chore chart up, and I have not missed a single day of my chores.
That's good.
Yeah.
See, it's funny because from my perspective, I'm envious of your work schedule because that would anchor every day or 5 days a week to me. So it's interesting to hear, somebody struggle with constructive time for just the evenings and weekends.
I think it's because that combating the fact that I'm also a night owl. I mean, it's not hard for me to stay up. Like I am nocturnal as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, it's not hard for me to stay up. It's literally harder for me to sleep, which is why I said on the show a while back, like, I've started trying to be in bed at 10. So that way, at least I'm laying down. And for the most part, that has been working out. But, like, when I choose to stay up, I will go as long as my body will let me, or as long as I'll make my body go, for that matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean,
because Jeff and I drank a cup of coffee, like, when we started Long Good Friday, and so, I mean, like, 9:30 we each had a cup of coffee. But
that's not a great move.
Well, but that wouldn't carry me to 7 a.m.
It could carry you further than you realize, though. Like, you know that the experts recommend you shouldn't consume caffeine after, like, 3 or 4 p.m.
What do they know?
I'm just saying, like, that's their recommendation. So having it at like 8:30 at night, that's pretty late.
Yeah. But I also wasn't planning to go to sleep anytime soon, too.
Well,
so, yeah, I mean, there was that.
And there you go.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's been a lot better the last few days. I genuinely am trying to stick to this because I want to. And it's like, I have not had that feeling in a while. And if that sounds sad, it probably is. But at the same time, it's just like, I've had a really tough 2025 so far, and it really hasn't even been that much of it, except, I mean, we're almost to the halfway point, like 2 months away from it at this point. But, like, not even a lot has happened in regards of, like, negative stuff. It's just been changes, and I think the changes have just thrown me off.
Well, you're a worrier.
Oh, big time.
I know. And I didn't think you didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but
No,
you're a
what do you mean
warrior.
by that?
Oh, now you're worried about what I meant by that. That makes sense. But just having that mentality of everything that comes up could be a new big problem.
Yeah.
Well, whether they are or not, the way your mind and your body take it will be as if it is.
Yeah.
And that's something to consider as well is, you have to try to find perspective on your problems as they come. And that sounds easy, and it kind of is, except if you over diminish your problems, then you'll just have a horrible time.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, I'm really worried because I'm stupid and I shouldn't be worried. And then you're beating yourself up instead of having a healthier mentality towards your problems.
What's harder for me and what really does become the biggest obstacle sometimes is that I love to help people. I love to be there for people as much as I can be and everything. And in doing so, that will make me cut pieces out of me that I should probably hang on to for my own spoons, for that matter. And then I can't really hold on to helping people if I'm not well myself. And like that's kind of been the come to Jesus. It's just been like I don't have the spoons to deal with a friend messaging me sometimes, and I hate it because it's just like I can't be like I can't deal with this right now, even though I absolutely can. And I mean that's my right, but as David, I can't. Like it's hard for me to tell somebody like I just can't help you right now.
Well, and it's hard if the habit has become that they come to you to ask you for things.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the catch-22.
Luckily, I don't have really many of those. I did back in the day.
I remember. Yeah.
But like, I mean, that has kind of been cut out. That was more so 20s than it has been 30s, luckily, because it's gotten to a point where it's just like, if you're in your 30s now and you're asking me for money every week or, every month or anything, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
That was... that was
all right.
A couple things. Yeah.
That's not okay.
No, it wasn't. And I told that person when that person got mad at me for telling them, I was just like, we're no longer friends because this is not. Yeah. You're not receiving me on this.
Hell no.
No.
That's way the line.
So I mean that it's been a really, really good couple of days. I'm holding on to this feeling, not in the sense of how long can I make this last. How do I make this last is how I'm feeling right now. Because, normally you feel happy and you're just like, oh man, I hope this, lasts a while. I'm feeling good to a point where it's like, if I keep this going, then I can at least stay focused on this and make the progress and build off of that.
That makes sense.
And just have a regimen at that point too.
I mean, having something to focus on, having something to keep you on track is very important.
Yeah.
And very valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like you've went through a lot of changes, especially in the later half of last year. So, and it's going to make you feel a certain way as you head into the anniversaries of multiple changes.
Exactly.
You're going to feel a certain way. I mean, I'm going through the anniversary of both of my dogs' deaths right now.
Yeah.
And there's that moment of just like, wow, so much time already. And you have to find where to put that. Yeah. You have to arrange the furniture of your mind, and you don't want that furniture getting knocked over.
No.
So it's a challenging thing. I mean, I appreciate that you're talking about it candidly. Little annoyed because I tried to see how you were doing earlier and you just said fine.
Yeah, because so this is no offense to you. There's times I want to talk about it and there's times I don't. And given, I'm not going to say what I was just telling you out in the living room about what
that was very
no
detailed.
But what I'm saying is that kind of brought me to where it's just like, okay, like this is something that like I've done all I can with it now and I need to let it go. And that was just kind of the thing where it's just like me being like, okay, you've helped the friend out. You've done what you can. Stop dwelling on it. Stop thinking about it. If anything else comes of it, we'll deal with it tomorrow.
Don't think it, don't say it.
Don't think it, don't say it.
Don't say it. Bye, man. So,
but I mean, it's no offense to you on that. And I mean, I know I'm stubborn. I know, but there's also times that I just genuinely don't want to talk about it. And then there's times where it just pops out of me. I
understand that. It's just sometimes it comes with anger.
I get that.
And that can be frustrating.
Yeah, I absolutely get that.
So luckily, I first studied anger management when I was very young, and I'm pretty good at catching myself once I'm pissed. And that helps a lot with, with all of my relationships in the world.
Yeah.
Because when people I care about piss me off at first, I almost never, fully snap.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I thought the text had kind of given you an idea of what I was going through, but you didn't know the after of that.
Yeah. And I think it may have not been very clear how taken away I was,
and that's
over the last few days.
I know. I mean, it is in the sense of you hadn't, when I sent that text, that was Thursday and you hadn't left yet. So that was, you and I haven't really spoken much since then. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
It was just a hell of a trip.
Oh yeah.
Hell to pull together all at once.
Oh yeah, man. I understand.
No, I'm not saying you're denying that, but with that all being said, you probably need Jesus, which takes us to our movie that we just saw.
Yes.
Before we came into the studio.
That is correct.
We finally got to catch Ryan Coogler's Sinners. And overall, really liked it.
Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been a while since we had a vampire movie in the most pure sense
of being a successful vampire movie. Or
I mean, like, it's not a Dracula movie.
No,
it's not a sequel. It's not a remake. It's not.
It's original concept.
It's an original vampire concept.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of vampires doing vampire stuff.
Yeah.
Like From Dusk Till Dawn or Interview with the Vampire, which were like, although I think that was based on a book, but it doesn't matter.
From Dusk Till Dawn, no.
No, Interview with the Vampire.
Oh yeah, Interview. Yeah.
But I mean, like, we had a lot of these vampire things in the 80s and 90s, Near Dark and stuff like that. But we've had quite the drought of successful vampire movies. Doesn't mean they weren't good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had Abigail, although technically that's loosely tied into a Dracula universe thing. Yeah. But that doesn't matter. It was really good.
But so much fun.
But it didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
And I got really curious and started pulling up info. And it's been a really long time since a non-Dracula. Well, first of all, even with Dracula Untold was 2014. That was a big hit.
I was not a fan of that movie.
I was not either, but I'm just saying, like, but apparently that one was considered a hit.
Yeah.
But then you had like Nosferatu, which is a remake, but it was a hit. But before that, like, according to the research I was doing, like, it was Hotel Transylvania was like the biggest vampire movie in a long time.
And Twilight.
And then Twilight.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see Sinners right now. If it can keep the momentum going, which it really looks like it is, it's going to be a big hit.
It's got the best word of mouth that I've seen of a horror movie in a while, because I had non-horror friends asking me if I'd seen Sinners yet. And I was just,
I like the idea you have literal like horror friends. They're just like ghouls and goblins.
I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, no, I had friends that normally don't go see the horror movies that I go see, or in general. And it was just like, have you seen Sinners yet? And I was like, no, have you? And they're like, I loved it. And it was just like, okay, this is something big. And for those who aren't aware, it's basically about these two brothers that have gotten out of Chicago. They're little, I guess they worked for Capone. Is that what the idea was?
Well, they keep hinting that they were in organized crime.
Yeah,
that they went to war.
Crime.
They went to war and then organized crime, because this I forget the exact year, was 1930s.
Yeah, and they have basically come back to their town. They're buying this little mill.
It was a former mill to turn into a juke joint.
To make it into a juke joint, and then some vampires end up stumbling upon it one night.
Well, and it takes place in Mississippi during Jim Crow.
Yeah,
so there's segregation and a lot of hostility.
No, a lot.
And the setting was really great.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really get a hint of vampire until about 30 minutes or so in.
Yeah, about 30. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because the first appearance, and then from there it just kind of, even with that first appearance, it still takes like about an hour 20 for it to really get into vampire territory.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a period piece horror movie musical is the best way that I could put it.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a musical, but it has a few pretty big moments of music.
It's got a lot of music numbers to it.
Well, and the theme is music. I mean, the element, the concept of like a fire starting from music is a very old concept.
Yeah.
I mean, goes way back to like Mozart era.
Mm-hmm.
And those two brothers, they start their juke joint up, and basically they have this incredible, almost seance, transcendent performance.
Yeah.
At their juke joint, which attracts these vampires to come and want to crash the party.
Yep.
and it's really fun and spooky.
It goes places you don't expect it to, I would say. Like not so much like story-wise, it's more so like the musical element that carried even over to the vampire side. I wasn't expecting.
Oh, like them performing different types of music?
Yeah, that was really cool. And I really wouldn't consider that a spoiler much because I mean that happens a lot.
Well, and the little moments of voodoo in there were pretty cool and interesting. They kept things really moving.
Reminded me a lot of Idlewild meets From Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, it had tons of From Dusk Till Dawn vibes going for me for sure.
Especially the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, and we had like the main character is the guitar player who kind of summons everything, and he's the son of a preacher.
Yeah.
Who's expected to become a preacher.
Yep.
So you've got like a lot of those elements going for it. It was pretty creepy. It had some great jump scares.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider it like super scary all the way through, but it had some great scares.
It had some really good violence too, I would say, especially towards the end with the siege. Like it
was very violent.
It was very violent at that point, especially.
Oh, but I mean like the blood spray was
it was
really
everywhere.
crazy. And I thought overall it was it was a solid film. I wasn't a huge fan of like the last fourth. But it wasn't bad. I just wasn't as into it as I was the rest of the film. And that's a very minor critique.
Yeah.
Because also there's a mid-credit sequence that is excellent and I think really ties the film together even better. So don't be like the people sitting next to us who got up and left.
Yeah.
I guess they finally decided to go talk somewhere else. But
were they talking the whole movie?
A bit.
Okay.
A bit. And
guy seemed annoyed when I had to go through.
Yeah, he was annoyed when I did too.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not my fault you have long legs. But no, it was a damn fine film. And one thing that's really interesting is if this film becomes a huge hit, and I want to mention, I did not get this vibe from the trailers and the marketing. I did not get the vibe this was a big movie.
Yeah.
And it is.
Oh, it's huge.
It clearly cost $90 to $100 million.
Yeah.
But one of the really interesting things about this film that they just started reporting about, I think in Variety, is Ryan Coogler, he came off of doing 2 Creed movies,
Black
massive
Panther.
hits, and 2 Black Panther movies.
Started with
hits.
Fruitvale Station though, with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But so he's had 4 monster hits in a very short span of time.
Yeah.
And when he made this film, he basically chose his own deal, and he made a deal that's really uncommon for movies this big. He gets a cut of gross profits, or not profits, just gross earnings, which, for those who don't know, net means after expenses, gross means immediate. So that means that from the moment tickets start selling, regardless of how much the movie's made, he begins to see a portion. We don't know what percentage, but he begins to see money.
Yeah.
That is a big move. But the even more surprising one was he was able to make a deal with Warner Brothers that after 25 years, the film is going to revert back to him, like in its entirety.
Yeah.
And that is something that filmmakers have made those deals, but not at this scale, not with a movie that costs $100 million.
No.
It's extremely unusual.
Yeah, and it's kind of made the industry panic a little bit from what I've read in the articles too.
I think that was just how they got us to read it.
Yeah.
Because I don't see why they'd be panicked. It's like, what, you're afraid that somebody's going to want a
Did
good
you
deal?
see Ben Stiller go off on Variety, by the way?
Why?
Because Variety had put up an article basically saying, it's a huge hit, but it's got a $90 million.
Because it made 60 some million and
and
against
it's got
90.
the advertising campaign. And Stiller was just like, this is a really fucked up way to say like how this movie's like a hit. Like the movie like this doesn't deserve a headline like this.
Yeah, but they're trying to get you to read it.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I saw the first box office, I was like, And then when I saw the next few days, I was like, okay, no, it looks like it's going to upswing really great.
Yeah.
Because I'd like this to be a very big hit. Because it was a really great film. Yeah, it was surprisingly packed.
Yeah.
And on a Tuesday night. So I think it'll do well. I think if anybody is debating going to see it, it's not really a debate.
This is a movie made for theaters.
Oh, sure.
This is a movie made for movie-sized screens.
Well, they shot it in 65 millimeter and 70 millimeter. So it's IMAX.
Awesome.
I mean, we saw it in XD. It looked great.
No,
looked really
fantastic.
good. It was a bit dark. I mean, on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it was a bit dark, and I think that served it.
I think vampires only said one time, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, I was surprised it was said at all.
Yeah.
I thought it wouldn't be said at all. So I really, really dug Sinners.
It's good.
And I think people should go see it, support it.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a very interesting it's going to be interesting to see where things go from here with Ryan Coogler. Like, is he going to go back to making box office hits, or is he going to insist on making original things now that are his? Because his 4 box office hits were all other IP.
Yeah.
You know, Creed was a takeoff of Rocky, and he did an incredible job with both of those.
Marvel.
Obviously Black Panther's Marvel. Yeah. So I'd be very curious to see what's next, assuming this trends the way it is. And I do think that it's very likely the word of mouth will push this way over the top.
I would hope so.
I mean, it worked for Knives Out. Yeah. Knives Out was a great film, and it came back.
One.
I'm so sorry.
I want Glass Onion was a lot of fun, and I want a third one already.
I don't know. Write your congressman. So, but speaking of congressmen, tonight's film.
Okay.
No, I just was like, we should probably segue.
That's fair.
So, well, and not just because, we should get to the movie, but because this is a, kind of a seminal movie for you, David.
Big time.
So it's funny because our ages aren't massively different, but they're different enough that like there are a lot of movies you really like that you weren't there when they first came into existence.
I was
and
two
I
when this
was.
one came out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was, what year was it? 93?
94.
94?
Yeah.
So I would have been 8.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. So I remember the in the moment pop culture-ness. I remember the news pieces. I remember the commercials.
Yeah.
And I remember the VHS releases of a lot of these as well.
Yeah.
Like when they got pushed out. So tonight we're talking about 1994's The Crow.
Yes.
As part of our wrapping up the
April showers theme. Yes.
Because in this film, it can't rain all the time.
But it fucking does almost.
It damn near does. So, and this is a film that I know you've wanted to bring onto the show.
Yeah.
And honestly, you kind of just cheated so you could get 2 birthday picks out of doing this.
I still don't even know what my actual birthday pick's going to be. It might be nothing but trouble, but we'll find out.
Oh, I thought it would be, I'll always know what you did last summer.
No, that's your birthday pick for me.
You're right. I'll just make that my birthday pick.
There we go.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this was a movie that I did not realize was going to honestly change my life. Like, I mean, that's the best way I can put it, is because I remember being aware of this movie, and I remember how, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get into it, how I got a hold of this movie. But this movie and From Dusk Till Dawn, ironically, were bought the same day on VHS and taken home, and I watched both of them the same day, and lo and behold, got 2 of my favorite movies of all time. But The Crow is one that I could not tell you how many times I've seen it at this point. And getting to see it
6?
It's not 6. It's more than 6. But I mean, getting to see it on the big screen last year around my birthday was an ultimate gift. And I mean, it's just a movie that I absolutely have a lot to say about, but also it's become a way of me to connect with a lot of people in my life too, honestly.
People have been murdered.
People have been murdered. So
makes sense.
The Crow from 1994 is 1 hour and 42 minutes, rated R for a great amount of strong violence and language, and for drug use and some sexuality.
Well, are you just going to steamroll past, or did you want to watch this clip you brought?
Oh no, I'm gonna get there.
Okay,
I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
There's a place for it.
Oh, okay. Well, it'd be nice to know since I'm the one that has to cue everything.
We kind of just rolled into it, and that's my. Then I was literally thinking
this
that.
Friggin' guy.
My apologies, but anyway, IMDb synopsis says the night before his wedding, musician Eric Draven and his fiancée are brutally murdered by members of a violent gang. On the anniversary of their death, Eric rises from the grave and assumes the mantle of the Crow, a supernatural avenger.
That's an okay. I mean, it gets all the points.
Yeah. My synopsis: when he and his fiancée are murdered the night before their wedding, Eric Draven rises from the grave 1 year later to take vengeance on those responsible, assisted by a crow with supernatural powers.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Taglines.
Oh, yes.
Can't rain all the time.
Oh, that was actually a literal tagline.
It can't rain all the time was a tagline. Yep.
Okay.
Nothing is trivial.
Okay, that's not a good tagline.
This is one that I knew like verbatim because it was on the t-shirts and the poster. Believe in angels. It's on every single poster for the most part.
That's so friggin' like teenage girl cringe.
In a world without justice, one man was chosen to protect the innocent.
Makes him sound like the Phantom or something.
Real love is forever.
That one works okay.
And finally, You'll love this one. So keep in mind, 94, what superhero movie would have just come out tail end of the 80s?
Batman.
Darker Than the Bat.
No, but that one works better because it would be Darker Than the Bat, The Crow.
Yeah.
Because it was like, it leads into the title.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't like those taglines much at all.
It can't rain all the time's the best one. Next to Nothing is Trivial.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I would probably say that the best would be the love one.
Real Love is Forever.
Because that would get, because this movie, you got to understand, David, this movie lived and died by the teenage girls. My sister was a teenage girl when this movie came out, which is why I saw it.
I have bought 75% of my original Crow merch off of women, I would say.
Checks out entirely. Yeah.
So no, that absolutely checks out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's currently available to stream on Pluto TV. You can also rent it through Prime and Fandango, and it is also available on a beautiful 4K that came out a couple of years ago, or might even be a year ago now.
It was about a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Director is Alex Proyas on the film. He gets his start as director and writer on Spirits of Air, Gremlins of the Clouds in 87.
Okay.
Yeah. Fleetwood Mac, Everywhere Video in 87. Writer and director on Dark City in 98, Garage Days in 2002. But as far as his directing goes, yes, Rhythm of Love in 87. Cock Robin just around the corner in 87.
These are music videos.
Music videos, okay. Yes. Rick Springfield, Rock of Life. Mike Oldfield, Magic Touch. Crowded House, Better Be Home Soon. Joe Jackson, 19 Forever. Sting, All This Time. Then he directs The Crow in 94. That's his first theatrical film.
Okay.
Then he goes on to do I, Robot in 04, Knowing in 2009, and Gods of Egypt in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's
I
had...
didn't realize he had some more movies.
He's had some more movies, yeah. Writer on, one of the three writers on the film, first one being James O'Barr, who is the writer of the graphic novel in 1994. He gets his credit on that, as well as characters for City of Angels, Crow Stairway to Heaven, Crow Salvation, Crow Wicked Prayer, and Crow 2024.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yes, one. Crow 2024.
Other writer is David J. Scow. He gets his start
David
on
Scow.
1989's Freddy's Nightmares.
You're darn right.
Writer on Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw 3 in 1990. Critters 3, he gets screenplay credit on in 91. Critters 4, screenplay credit on in 92. Crow in 94. The Outer Limits 95. Perversions of Science in 97. The Hunger. Texas Chainsaw The Beginning in 2006, he gets a story credit on. Masters of Horror, both Pick Me Up and We All Scream for Ice Cream.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has a teleplay on The Hills Run Red in 2009.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, they call it a teleplay. It wasn't really a TV movie as far as I could tell.
No, it
may have been for
was
tax
not.
reasons.
Yeah. Mob City in 2013. Creep Show series, The Finger and Mums in 2019. He's the writer on.
Well, it's worth mentioning David Scow got his name in the world by being a splatterpunk author.
Yes, he
and
was.
that was his big thing. He had written novels or novellas and things like
I've got
that.
a couple of his. I've got like Seeing Red, and I've got one that he has like I think it's like 4 other writers because him and Mick Garris wrote together even on a couple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other writer on it is John Shirley. He gets his start in 1986 with Defenders of the Earth, The Real Ghostbusters in 86, Brave Star in 87, RoboCop series in 88, The Crow in 94, The Specialist, which he is the he wrote I think the Specialist novels or something or had a credit on that I want to say. Then he does Star Trek DS9.
All right.
Poltergeist: The Legacy.
Hey, all roads.
Adventures of Sinbad in 96. Red Shoe Diaries in 96.
Yeah.
Twist of Terror in 97. Prophet. Spawn TV series. Batman Beyond. The Tomb in 2009. Iron Man Armored Adventures. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 2016.
Oh, well, that took a turn.
Yeah. And our cinematographer on it is Darius Wolski. He gets his start in 1987 with Suzanne Vega's video for Luca. Sting, Be Still My Beating Heart. Shoots Van Halen When It's Love. Steve Winwood, Holding On. The Bangles, Eternal Flame video. Hall & Oates, Downtown Love. Crosby, Stills & Nash, American Dream. Paula Abdul, Forever Your Girl. Aerosmith, Jamie's Got a Gun in 89. Pointer Sisters, After You. ZZ Top, Give It Up. Then in 1993 is the cinematographer for one of the most underrated neo-noirs that I've seen and also cannot recommend enough, Romeo is Bleeding, with Gary Oldman, Roy Schreider, God, who else is in that? But it's a really good mob story.
Are there any overrated neo-noir thrillers?
I mean, sure, but I don't know of any.
I was just saying, when you say underrated neo-noir thriller, my first thought is I think that's all of them
you know.
are underrated.
Neo-noir is also a term that gets thrown around a lot nowadays.
That's kind of my point. Yeah.
Then he does The Crow in 94, then shoots Crimson Tide in 95, follows it up with The Fan in 96, which is the Wesley Snipes, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Perfect Murder in 98, Michael Douglas. Dark City in 98, Alex Proyas.
Shocking.
Eminem featuring Dido, the Stan music video, which was a big music video when it came out.
I remember the Stan music video.
Yep. Then you had The Mexican in 2001, which is one of my favorite movies. Bad Company 2002, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Hide and Seek in 2005, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest in 06, At World's End in 07, Sweeney Todd, Demon Barber of Fleet Street in 07, Eagle Eye in 08, Alice in Wonderland, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, The Rum Diary, Prometheus, The Counselor, Exodus Gods and Kings, The Martian, The Walk, Alien Covenant, War Machine, All the Money in the World, Sicaria, Day of the Soldado.
Wow.
Raised by Wolves in 2020, News of the World, The Last Duel, House of Gucci, Napoleon, Fly Me to the Moon, and most recently, Modi, The 3 Days on the Wings of Madness in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
His career really picked up in the last 10 years like crazy.
You shoot The Crow, then go to shoot Crimson Tide, which we just recently revisited, and that movie is shot beautifully.
Sure. No, but like, man, I mean, I've seen a good 80% of that last bunch you were talking about, like News of the World and all those. I mean, they're all really
News
great.
of the World was really good.
It seems like he got pulled into that kind of Burton-y ecosystem and everything.
Shoot The Martian and The Walk back to back, pretty crazy.
Yeah. I wonder if The Walk was shot in 3D. I know that it was released in 3D.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know. So moving down to our cast, we have Brandon Lee, who plays Eric Draven in the film. He gets his start in 1986 on Kung Fu the Movie, goes on to do Legacy of Rage in 86, CBS Summer Playhouse in 87, Crime Killer in 87, Laser Mission in 89, Showdown in Little Tokyo in 91, Rapid Fire in 92, and The Crow in 94. As I'm sure most of our listeners know, he was tragically taken from us on this production at age 28, March 13th, 1993. Accidental gunshot wound from a faulty prop revolver. To explain it in a little bit more, basically, a scene was filmed 2 weeks before Lee had been called by the same gun that had been chosen for a close-up in the movie. Revolvers often use dummy cartridges fitted with bullets, but no powder or primer during close-ups, as they look more realistic than blank rounds, which have no bullet. Instead of purchasing commercial dummy cartridges, the film's prop crew, hampered by time and money constraints, created their own by pulling bullets from live rounds, dumping the powder charge but not the primer, then reinserting the bullets. Witnesses reported that 2 weeks before Lee's death, they saw an unsupervised actor pulling the trigger on the gun while it was loaded with powderless but primed round. Since the primer was still live, it could launch the bullet with enough force to push it out of the case and wedge it into the barrel. In the fatal scene, which called for the revolver to be actually fired at Lee from a distance 12 to 15 feet, the dummy cartridges were exchanged for blank rounds, which feature a live powder charge and primer but no bullet, thus allowing the gun to be fired without the risk of an actual projectile. As the production company had sent the firearms specialist home early, responsibility for the guns was given to a prop assistant who was unaware of the rule inspecting all firearms before and after handling. Therefore, the barrel was not checked for obstructions when the time came to load it with the blank rounds. Since the bullet for the dummy round was already trapped in the barrel, a condition known as squib load, this caused the 44 Magnum bullet to be fired out of the barrel with virtually the same force as if the gun had been loaded with a live round, and it struck Lee in the abdomen, mortally wounding him. Basically, it went through his stomach, it got lodged in his spine. He did not die on impact. He made it for about 12 hours and then passed to the hospital.
Yeah, it was a serious tragedy and a big wake-up call.
Yeah.
And as we'll find out when we talk about The Crow a little bit later, there were a lot of unsafe corners being cut to make this production because it was a big movie with not that big of a budget in comparison.
Yeah.
And I mean, people get hurt on movie sets more than they should.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the homogeny of following the director's lead, of the fact that everybody wants the movie to get done. And then when you get into the nitty gritty of it, everybody wants to go home. Everybody wants to make their day. Everybody wants to, whatever goal they have, it always leads to, we need to wrap up today.
Yeah.
And when you cut corners like that, it can usually it's annoying at worst, but sometimes it can be deadly. And we had that incident with Rust.
Yeah.
Which, although that was, as far as I can tell, such an incredible dereliction of duty on the part of the armorer.
Yeah.
The last I heard, there were actual live rounds of ammunition on the set.
Yeah.
Which is completely
not even
but like not just irresponsible.
Yeah.
But when I say like live rounds should not be on the set, I don't mean they shouldn't be on the set that day.
Mm-mm.
I mean they should never be anywhere near the set, even on an off day.
Yeah.
Because if one live round ends up anywhere, somebody could die.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we've seen that firsthand.
Yeah, and that's something that's shocking to me.
Yeah.
That you would ever think, oh, we'll take live rounds out there for fun later on. That's insanity.
Yeah.
That's true insanity. And the idea of a bullet being lodged in the barrel and then getting shot out by a blank round is a real danger.
Yeah.
And it's why generally after The Crow, firearms are usually inspected by the director and the two actors involved. Anyone who's near the gun and anybody who's firing the gun, they all inspect them, whether they're real or not.
Yeah.
And that's also really important. I remember working on a movie once where somebody had to shoot themselves with a gun. And we don't use real firearms on the set unless there's no other choice. There have been a few times, but there's no live ammunition anywhere near us.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't use blanks. And the gun was airsoft so that it recoiled when it shot. So it looked very convincing. And I remember saying, like, you can hold it to your cheek and pull it. It won't do anything other than go like a little puff of air. And he was like, it makes me nervous. I was like, I totally understand. I put it up to my hand and I pulled the trigger like 8 times. And I was like, if you still don't want to do it, that's fine. If you want to do that to your hand and see, like, but I felt nothing. And he ended up doing it because it felt like nothing.
Yeah.
But that was a very good, like, there was no rush. There was no urgency. It was just like, hey, I'd like to do it this way.
Yeah.
I will do it.
Well, and
it's not dangerous.
Pretty much on any set, you should be able to call an armorer over anytime to check a gun, no matter what.
If there are real firearms capable of firing real bullets, then yes.
Yeah.
Because even a blank by itself can be dangerous if pointed in your direction.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I think it's up to 10 feet. It's really not a danger anymore because the projectile it could shoot out at you is basically a little tiny piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
Or wadding if it's a shotgun. So generally speaking, it can't go very far. But even so, if you actually look back at some of your favorite movies where people shoot at each other, you can actually see they're aiming away.
Oh, one of my all-time favorites is how noticing on rewatches of Die Hard, they do not show you Hans Gruber's face when he fires that gun half the time.
Well, they had a double loaded there, which is twice as much gunpowder as would be in a normal cartridge to give a big fireball.
Yeah. They cut away a lot because he was apparently wincing when he would fire it.
Yeah, because it was insanely loud and bright. And that's the thing. So I'm glad that The Crow, that if anything could happen from it, other than showing how good Brandon Lee is as an actor, as tragic as it is, it is good that it got a conversation going about, like, should people be in danger making movies? And the answer is no.
No, never.
And that's coming from somebody who, like, my entire life is movies in every way.
Yeah.
My favorite things are movies. What I make a living on are movies. Everything is movies. But I don't even think, I think that if you get a sprained ankle on a set, somebody should be in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, unless the actor is straight up like, I just ran up that hill like a dumbass or whatever.
Well, on Not Quite Hollywood, the exploitation documentary, there's that scene where they're talking about the movie Turkey Shoot, and Steve Railsback is talking about how David Hemmings had the scene where Olivia Hussey was going to chop off what's-his-face's hands with that sword, and he goes, okay, cut, and she did not, nobody instructed her about cutting, so she's about to literally take the sword and chop dude's hands, and he had to come and run in and be like, no, don't cut.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of attention that needs to be brought to those kind of things.
Well, and that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other
with
thing,
actual sharp blades and stuff. I have a friend, I don't know if she'd want me to talk about it, but who got very hurt by handling a blade that she was handed and not told that it was sharp.
Yeah.
Usually, unless it's a very brief sequence, we would never have a sharp knife on set at all. We would have a knife that had been dulled, and we would maybe warn that the tip is still pretty pointy because it's hard to get rid of a tip. But it's safety should be the number one priority.
Absolutely.
And now, as much as it, you know, some people hate it because it's, you know, they're purists or whatever. For the most part, I just don't see a reason to have blank firing guns on a movie set.
I mean, I don't either.
I mean, CG does it great. And I know that it's like, but all the movies we loved watching were like that. It's like, yeah, but that's not a reason. Well, and but people did get hurt.
Yeah.
And you can watch pieces about people getting hurt.
We were just talking about it last week, how on the Road to Perdition episode, how the Tommy gun was first introduced in 1932 Scarface, and there's rumor that they were literally firing at people and telling them to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Given that's 32.
And granted, though, and if that was true, we're probably missing some detail that made it at least half as dangerous.
Yeah.
If not more. Because even in 1932, like lawyers existed and people could still die.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that death and lawyers were invented within 6 years of each other.
Is it in the 70s we didn't believe in death yet? We didn't believe kids
It was
could
the
die
80s.
yet.
We didn't know kids could die yet. That's quoting my own movie.
Quoting your own movie at
yeah.
you. Yeah.
But it was the 80s. We didn't know kids could die yet. Al Snow says that so perfect. He does. Because he had children in the 80s. So he got it. But no, so I just wanted to harp on that because I so desperately care about that.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not just injuries either. I mean, heat stroke, extreme cold, frostbite. I worked on a movie last year in March and I got my thigh and I was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And my thigh got so badly frostbitten that it didn't regain full feeling for almost 8 months.
Jesus.
I didn't talk about it because, what can you do?
Yeah.
But I actually, for a little while, when it had been months and it was still kind of numb, I was actually worried that I had like a nerve disorder.
Oh, Jesus. Dude.
I mean, it would have been mild at that time, but
still concerning.
I kept an eye on it because the side of your thigh is not full of nerve endings anyway. Like when you scratch it, you can't feel how many nails are on it or whatever anyway, because it's just not that advanced of a feeling.
Yeah.
But like that was with me wearing long johns and thick pants and trying my best to stay safe.
Yeah.
I still ended up too cold because you can only do so much. And I once got heat exhaustion on a movie set and it wasn't it was my fault.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the production had said multiple times, like, we have water over here and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but I want to get all the stuff done. And I'm 19 and da-da-da-da-da. And that's why I have a saying on set, which is, remember, 4 minutes for you to drink a bottle of water beats the hell out of 45 minutes waiting for an ambulance.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to say, can I have a second just to drink a bottle of water? Because you'll never hear no.
Yeah.
You just won't. I mean, you might hear, we'll get a bottle of water to you in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst you're going to get is like, where's a bottle of water? But usually they're never far away anyway.
No. And I mean, and I remember, I'm not going to name names, but I remember there's people that we've worked with on your sets that would not seek help. And you were just like, all right, if you're going to do this, you're not going to impress me. Like, I would rather you.
I used to say, remember, you don't get bonus points for suffering.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing to say to people who were just kind of like, oh no, I'll just keep walking. I don't need a chair to sit in or whatever. I'm like, there's a chair just empty right there. Sit in it for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Rest your damn feet. Like, you're not going to get the only way you're going to impress me is if you crucify yourself. And even then, only if you rise after 3 days. Sorry, Easter was just the other day. So, yeah.
Moving down to our cast, we also have Michael Wincott in the film who plays Top Dollar. Did not realize this man's resume until I was looking at it. Oh, yeah. So he gets to start in 1979 on a film called Title Shot. Goes on to be in An American Christmas Carol in 79, The Family Man in 79, Wild Horse Hank in 79, Ticket to Heaven, The Littlest Hobo, Curtains in 83. Yeah. I did not know he was in that until I pulled it up the other night because I was like, where is he?
Oh, yeah. He's one of those faces, man.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Night Heat in 85, The Sicilian, Crime Story, Talk Radio in 88, The Equalizer series, Bloodhounds on Broadway, Born on the 4th of July in 89, The Doors, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Romeo is Bleeding, The Three Musketeers, The Crow in 94, then goes on to be in Panther, Dead Man in 95, Strange Days in 95, Strangers, Metro in 97 with Eddie Murphy, which he plays a vicious killer in Metro. Like his initial introduction to that movie when he stabs a cop is one of the most brutal scenes.
As opposed to how generally childlike and cute stabbing a cop is in most movies.
I mean, it's just you don't expect.
No, it's a really good scene.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to bring a little levity to it.
Yeah, I get you. Alien Resurrection in 97, Gunshy in 98, Hidden Agenda, Along Came a Spider in 2001, Count of Monte Cristo, Treasure Planet, Seraphim Falls, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly in 2007, What Just Happened in 08, Hitchcock in 2012, 24, Live Another Day in 2014, Knights of Cups in 2015, Westworld in 2016, and most recently, Nope in 2022.
Which is a highly memorable character.
He's so good. One of my favorites.
When he basically Bill Shatner's flying purple people eater.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that sequence.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things that it started happening and you're just kind of like watching the movie, just kind of like, and then as and then your brain goes, this is what's happening. You're like, am I witnessing this right now? It was so good. I was actually just saw people on social media bitching about Nope. And I was like, yeah, you guys
really
suck. Some people hated it. I mean, some people hate everything, but I really liked Nope. So I was just kind of shocked when I saw people just bitching and bitching and bitching about it.
So many good moments. The opening alone makes that movie.
The Nopening?
The Nopening. The opening of Nope alone makes that movie.
The Nopening of Ope?
Would you stop it?
Oh, sorry. I'm from Ohio. I say Ope. What do you want?
So we also have Ernie Hudson in the cast, who plays Sergeant Albrecht in the film. 260 credits on his resume.
That doesn't surprise me. He's incredible.
It didn't surprise me, but I guess I just didn't realize how much he has been working, and it's been nonstop.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's always work for him because he's so authoritative and gentle at the same time.
Do you know? So he gets a start in 1976 on Leadbelly. Then in 76, he's also in The Human Tornado.
Really?
Yes.
Man.
So then he goes on to be in The Man from Atlantis in 77, Fantasy Island, Last of the Good Guys, Roots, The Next Generation in 79, The White Shadow, The Main Event, The Octagon in 1980, Jazz Singer, Taxi, Penitentiary in 82, Space Hunter in 83, Going Berserk, The A-Team. Then in 84, he gets Ghostbusters, Joy of Sex in 84, Super Friends in 85, Give Me a Break, Full House, The Wrong Guys, Leviathan in 89, Collision Course in 89, Ghostbusters 2 in 89, Cop Rock in 1990.
Hell yeah.
King Cop Rock. Hand That Rocks the Cradle in 92.
Oh, yeah.
Which
he's in that.
That should probably be a future episode. I really like that movie. What?
Oh, whenever I hear Hand That Rocks the Cradle,
Yeah.
I think of the episode of Blossom where they make a home movie and it's Hand That Chokes the Baby. That's why I chuckled.
That's fair.
No, because they did a couple. They did an Aliens parody one time too. That was very funny. I loved Blossom growing up. I'm not ashamed.
The Ben Stiller Show in 92, Batman the Animated Series in 92, Tales from the Crypt in 93, Sugar Hill, then does The Crow in 94, follows that up with No Escape in 94, that Ray Liotta movie. Then The Cowboy Way in 94, Airheads in 94, Speechless in 94, The Basketball Diaries in 95, Congo in 95, Grace Under Fire, The Substitute, The Cherokee Kid, Mr. Magoo, Arliss. Then in 97, he lands a little series called Oz.
Which is one of his finest roles.
Yes.
Because Leo Glynn, he plays the warden of the prison. He's so multifaceted. He has so much going on. He's so complicated. You think you have him figured out and you never really do.
Yeah.
It's one of the best roles he's ever portrayed, and he's portrayed so many great ones. I mean, when I revisited Ghostbusters as an adult after not seeing it for 9-10 years or something, I was shocked how much his character was my favorite, bar none.
Yeah.
Because everybody else was a cartoon and then he was just a guy.
Yeah.
And now that, as an adult, I'm watching it and like him saying like, do you believe in the paranormal? He's like, I believe in whatever gets me a paycheck. And I was like, I identify with this man. I too have bills.
I'll believe whatever you say.
Yeah, I'll believe whatever you say. No, but he's so earnest in it too. He's not cynical. He's just very honest about the fact that his pragmatism is, I got a family.
Yeah.
I got to make money. I'm just happy to be here,
So Oz in 97, then Shark Attack in 99.
Okay, I stand corrected. That's his finest performance.
The Watcher with Keanu Reeves in 2000.
I stand corrected again.
Miss Congeniality in 2000. Everwood in 2002 with Treat Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous in 2005. ER, Stoop Dog's Hood of Horror in 2006.
I kind of like Hood of Horror.
Do you remember his story?
It's been...
So they did a remake of the story in Tales from the Crypt with the military guys that are in the institution that the guy takes over and completely takes away their blankets, takes away their heat.
Oh, like the House for the Blind in the original Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, because it's that the chick and the military guy move into their place and they fuck up the same thing, and then they turn on them. Man,
I need to revisit that. I need to watch Bones.
Bones holds up. I still like Bones a lot. Hood of Horror has problems.
I'm now getting so old that things I kind of liked.
Yeah.
The nostalgia and age on them makes them great. So I would be really curious to revisit that one.
Bones is a lot of fun. Desperate Housewives 2004, Bones in 2008.
Well, but for the record, Bones doesn't need nostalgia. Bones is just a solid fucking horror movie.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Evolution, Torchwood, Heart of Dixie, Scandal, Ghostbusters 2016, Lethal Weapon, the series in 2016, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and most recently, Firebugs in 2024, which is a TV series that he does a voice on. He does a lot of voice work.
Well, dude's got an incredible voice.
Yeah, absolutely does. So what was your first time watching The Crow?
Well, you know, if you had told me that, or if you'd asked me that question a year and a half ago, I would have said I would guess that I watched it on tape or on TV.
Yeah.
But when I went to see it in the theater with you when it was being revived, I realized, well, I started to say to myself, like, have I seen this in the theater before? I asked my mother, and my mother, oh, your sister took you. And I was like, of course she did. She was like 16 years old. She had a car. I was 8 or so, and I loved movies.
Yeah.
And it was I'm sure it was one of those, like, well, take your brother. He likes that stuff. And I was obsessed with Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Like, very obsessed. My sister was obsessed with The Crow. We had the soundtrack, and she was always playing it on her fucking your boombox in her bedroom. And I remember very little, but I remember seeing it in the theater.
Yeah.
Being startled by some of the violence because it was very, like, in your face, very MTV. And it obviously left an impression. Then I remember, you know, a year and a half later renting it on tape. I remember catching it on cable here and there. The Crow has always been around.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody who doesn't like The Crow to the point where it is funny to me to say I don't like The Crow to you because you like it so much, because I literally don't know anybody who's like, The Crow's kind of overrated. I don't know anybody like that. I don't. So when I think of The Crow, I think of the fact that it was very representative of Gen X, which I was looking up to being an older millennial. My sister was Gen X. All of her friends were Gen X. So, and that movie was just such a seminal Gen X movie.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I remember seeing it. And then I think I revisited it on DVD in my early 20s. Like I rented it from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've always liked it, but it was really awesome seeing it in the theater that last time. It made me realize how much I do like the movie, but how silly it is.
Yeah.
In some ways great, and in some ways just really silly.
Yeah.
Like him I had completely forgotten until we were in the theater that he like shreds a guitar on top of the building.
Yes, he does.
And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's cool, but like, it's almost too much. It's almost too much.
It's a little too much. So if you want to pull up that video, I'll explain. So,
oh geez. Okay.
The Crow is seminal to me because this is one I had on VHS, and the way that I'm able to figure out my movies is VHS to DVD ratio in that sense. And I had gotten my first 2 VHS tapes that I'd ever bought myself at the flea market, and one was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and the other was Ransom. And Ransom just so happened to have this trailer on its on the tape,
which we're about to take a look at. Here goes nothing.
So this is the first time that I'm ever seeing like anything about The Crow, really.
Oh.
So you got Judge Dredd.
Yeah. Some bitching stuff.
Then we go into Terminal Velocity.
Yeah.
Tombstone, only showing the scenes at the end.
Well, of course, because that's where all the action. I love Tombstone, but that's where the big action is. Yeah.
Highlander, The Final Dimension.
Oh, of course. The finest of them.
The Crow. So my initial look of this movie is it's a horror film.
It does look like a horror movie, and I would say that it's debatable.
Color of Night.
I would say it's debatably a horror movie.
Yeah,
though.
I mean it's in horror if you buy it from FYE. Hand that rocks the cradle.
The Hand That Chokes the Baby. Crimson Tide. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's.
I remember the music and everything.
Guilty as Sin.
Guilty as Sin. Oh.
The era of the music videos at the beginning of your DVDs and VHSs.
Dead
Presidents. Yeah.
Again, only showing the end of the robbery.
Well, you'd also get really interesting combos. Bad Company. You'd get like a really interesting combination to Pulp Fiction. Because sometimes stuff would be released nowhere near each other in theaters, but they'd all come out on video at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially when DVD came out. Because then it would be like, we're releasing everything from the 90s.
Your concentration.
Pulp Fiction. Yeah, and now we're getting a recap of all these excellent releases. Man, I mean, this stuff is just is so early 2000s.
I remember the music like verbatim.
Continue.
And what's hilarious is to find that trailer to send to you, I literally just typed in The Crow, Tombstone, Color of Night, Guilty of Sin, and found it because it's a
bitching guitar solo,
like Hollywood Pictures, Miramax, etc. Lineup basically.
Yeah.
So that was my initial concept of The Crow. So fast forward about a year later, maybe even half a year later, and I'm at Caesar's Creek Flea Market with my dad. We've actually set up to sell there.
Okay.
And so I went there specifically to hang out with him and also sell some stuff, but also shop. And there was a booth that had a bunch of horror stuff, and I wanted to get a copy of From Dusk Till Dawn. Got my copy of From Dusk Till Dawn. I was happy. That's really all I needed. So then it was towards like midway through the day or so, and Dad's like, "Why don't you go like walk around, like see what else is out there?" And I was like, "Okay." So I find myself over by this booth, and there's just these 2 Rubbermaid containers full of VHS tapes. And 2 guys are talking, and I go into one, and I pick up The Crow right on the top, and I'm just like, I bet I would like this movie. Didn't really know anything about it at this point, just had known that trailer and had known that like it was an action movie with some horror elements and whatnot.
I want to mention, I feel like at a flea market, anytime I see a Rubbermaid container, I'm like, that better be full of VHS tapes or baby alligators.
If not both.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead and get one.
Oh, no, they can barely take your finger yet.
That's fair.
Just don't flush them.
Funny enough, I pick up The Crow, and the guy is like, I was like, "Oh yeah, I watched that last night. It's a great movie. It's sad about the guy," which I didn't even know about Brandon Lee's death at that point. So I was like, "Yeah, just making small talk with an adult." And so I grab The Crow, buy it from him for like $1, and then this guy comes and buys the entire tub of VHS tapes that he was talking to. So go home with From Dusk Till Dawn and The Crow, watch them both. And I remember The Crow ending and me actually being like, I kind of want to watch that again. And I watched it again right after. And I don't do that often. Like that's
How old were you exactly?
I had to have been like 12, 13.
Oh.
Probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
You were like, I am Eric Draven. That's how every teenage boy
Or I mean,
was.
I may even been 11, 12, 13. We'll say it somewhere in there. But yeah, it was a feeling of I want to watch that again immediately, and I hadn't really done that. Like that was not something I did often.
I just imagine after the second viewing, just like walking into the doorway of your mom and dad with like a blanket around your shoulder, going, "Mom, Dad, where's a hot topic?"
Funny story enough, if I had planned the show a little bit better, I was going to try to institute a gag where the more we just kept cutting back to me, just Crow makeup kept like going on me the more that I talked about.
Part of me was like, if we weren't going to the movies, I wouldn't be shocked if you'd done that.
It was a thought.
It's one of my favorite gags in the South Park movie. Nobody dress up like the Crow.
Oh, that's not even the movie. That's just the Halloween episode.
That's Halloween episode.
Because that's Steve Irwin right after his passing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so ended up loving it, and naturally, ended up upgrading on DVD, and it was one that I showed to a couple friends. Even I think I even showed it to my parents, honestly. And so I mean, it was a seminal moment that when that tape hit my VCR.
Sure.
So it's one that I go back to. This is a movie that I literally watch every year, if not multiple times each year.
So as a teenager, when you went through a breakup, did you like blare the opening theme and like put on makeup looking in the mirror at yourself?
For the record, I did not get the soundtrack until like probably like 2 or 3 years of owning the VHS or even the DVD at that point. And then once I got to the soundtrack, there was no going back.
No, there is no. That's a good soundtrack too.
And I mean, and to be honest too, I didn't watch the sequels for years. I remember specifically getting City of Angels for a Christmas gift one year because I told my dad, because that was back in the days of Dad doing eBay constantly, and I was like, "Hey, can you look for this?" And sure as shit, it surprised under the Christmas tree that year.
I remember the first Crow sequel because I remember my sister, when it was over, we watched it on tape. I remember when it was over, her hitting the rewind button with anger. I'm serious.
I can believe
she
that.
was pissed.
Was it? I mean, it had to have been City of Angels, right?
I'm assuming that was the first one.
Yeah.
The first sequel. It was that one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like literally just like I'm taking this back.
But yeah, it was a movie that made an impact on me, and then also just genuine love for Brandon Lee and sadness that he was taken from us, because I think this is his absolute best performance.
Well, yeah, although he was actually really
I love him in Rapid Fire.
Is really good in Rapid
He's
Fire.
really good in Showdown in Little Tokyo. And even most recently, I just saw Legacy of Rage, which is the Hong Kong movie he did, which is done by the director of Bride of Chucky.
His name's escaping me right now. But it's
oh, shit.
Yeah, it's annoying. I'll look it up. You just
Okay.
keep being you.
But yeah, no, I mean Lee's performance in this movie is memorable.
Ronnie Yu.
Ronnie Yu, yeah, is memorable. It is when I tell you who was up originally for this movie, you will shit. That's all I'll say.
Well, I also want to mention my sister had Rapid Fire and Laser Mission in her personal VHS collection.
I've never seen Laser Mission to this day. I want to, but
Pathetic.
well, it's public domain, so I don't know what copy is a good copy.
How the hell did Laser Mission become public domain?
It's public domain, I think. I'm pretty sure because I've seen a lot of releases of it.
Could be.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to see that one. But yeah, Legacy of Rage is one I knocked off the list finally. But yeah, I mean, this is just, fuck it. Let's just get into it.
Okay.
So we open on Devil's Night. We are in a wide shot. We're seeing a lot of fires in these cityscapes. And these cityscapes are miniatures. Really well done miniatures.
For their budget.
For their budget.
I mean, I'm not trying to pick on them. It's
No.
just the 4K especially just really shows the
it.
limitations of what they could do with the miniatures and with the
cars.
With the cars and with the compositing of the fire and stuff like that. I mean, but it feeds that kind of comic bookiness. Just like when he's on top of the roof and it's so clearly not real. It does feed that aesthetic quite a bit.
Oh, it does. And I mean, and the Graham Revell score kicks in throughout this movie and starts right at the beginning. And we hear Sarah, voiceover of Sarah say, people once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it and the soul can't rest. Then sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
And I want to know what people. So that was my first thought when I was rewatching it today is I was like, okay, that's one of those things you do where you go, people say this.
Yeah.
What people? I'd like to know. But no, it's a sweet opening, though.
It is. And we're flying with the crow. The crow eventually comes up to Eric and Shelley's apartment window where we see Albrecht, Ernie Hudson standing out of a broken glass window. And we look down, we see Eric is dead on the street. Shelley is inside being taken care of by medics. And basically we get the reporting that there's 143 fires in the city going on right now for Devil's Night because Top Dollar's gang, that's their tradition.
Well, and one of the cops' comments says like they must have been lazy this year because last year was worse.
Yeah.
Which tells you, well, this takes place in Detroit, right?
Yeah, Detroit, yes. Yeah, in a ravaged and decrepit Detroit, as Wikipedia described it.
Detroit.
So
I said Detroit.
Yes. So we find out that Shelley has been assaulted and she's seriously wounded. The medics are attending to her. Eric was thrown out of the window or shot out of the window. We're not 100% sure at that point. And that tomorrow was going to be their wedding. So they are murdered and attacked before their wedding.
Well,
night.
and one of the haunting lines is somebody says, who gets married on Halloween?
Who the fuck gets married on Halloween?
And Hudson says, nobody.
No one, nobody.
Because they're both dead.
Yeah. So Albrecht is told by the medic, he's like, we got to move her. And he's like, go ahead and do it. So they get her outside. By this point, Sarah rolls up on her skateboard and she's like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, Shelley, your sister, she's going to be okay. And she's like, oh, Shelley's not my sister. She just takes care of me, her and Eric.
Yeah.
And she's like, you lied to her because she even asked about Eric. And he's like, oh, he's okay. Like, we just got to get you taken care of. They get Shelley out. And he's like, you're lying to me about Shelley too.
Yeah. No, that's probably the thing that I didn't recall until I rewatched it much later.
Yeah.
Was how sad that whole element is.
Yeah.
Because Eric and Shelley appear to be bizarrely good people living in a place where not a lot of good people live.
No. And
the cruelty of that city just kind of swallows everybody up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's deeply heartbreaking.
It is. No. And we also meet one of the shitbag cops, I'll call him, which is played by Marco Rodriguez, who is Torres. And he's the superior to Albrecht and basically tells him that they shouldn't have moved Shelley without his authorization. And this is where we kind of get a taste that him and Albrecht don't get along.
You don't say.
So 1 year later, we see that Sarah's visiting the grave. We also see that a crow flies to the grave, lands on it, and pecks it. And shortly after that, Eric rises back from the grave.
Yes, he does. And we don't waste a lot of time.
We don't, unlike 2024.
What do you mean?
where technically he is crow adjacent 45 minutes into the movie.
What do you mean?
And then the last 20 minutes, he's full on crowed.
But in their defense, that time was necessary for them to establish the deep depth of love.
You're gonna fucking make me rage.
You brought it up.
I know.
You brought it up, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I think my favorite part of our experience of seeing Crow 2024 was you just leaning over to me and realizing it was okay for you to make jokes finally.
Because I sincerely
you wanted to be a good friend, and
I was like, what if Dave really digs this,
likes this movie,
and I just don't? I'm not going to piss all over.
And then I leaned over you and I was like,
this
is not good.
And then I was like, I know. No, because they do such a good job in the original Crow of establishing how in love Eric and Shelley are, and how deep their love goes, and how important they were to each other.
Whereas Skarsgård and FKA Twigs are two toxic people that break out of a rehab center together.
But they knew each other for weeks. I mean, wouldn't you rise from the dead for a woman you met, a week or two?
Yeah.
Actually, you might.
I think it's a week. I don't even think it's weeks.
It could be that short.
I think it's week.
I don't trust your memory of such trauma.
Well, here's the thing. I have now seen that movie, unfortunately, 3 times.
What?
Twice in theaters.
Whoa, what? Why do you hate you?
So you and I saw it for the first time, obviously.
Right.
And then my friend Tosh asked me, because she was like, no one else will go with me. Will you go see this in the theater?
And you were like, they're all correct.
I mean, I did say that. I was like, I'm not going to have a good time, but yeah, I'll absolutely go see it with you. So we went to see it, and at the very end, she was like, that's not very good. And I was like, I know, right? Then Celise and I and our friend Melissa, the day before Valentine's Day, I wanted, they had not seen it yet. And Melissa is a huge Crow fan. So I was like...
So you were like, don't watch it.
No, I was like, if you're going to watch it, let's all watch it together. I will put myself through it. And we, to give you perspective, I was streaming my laptop to my TV, and we were watching it through Discord. So I had a screen like this big on my TV.
And it was too big. That was too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen 2024, and I technically own it digitally in 4K now.
I don't know why. People say you pick on Dave too much. Do you see why Dave treats himself?
I am kind of a cinemasochist, I guess you could say, in this sense.
I'm not touching that one.
That's fair.
I'm just letting that one go.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, that's, but yeah. Anyway, back to the good movie. So, by this point, yeah, he comes out of the grave, he's screaming, and the rain's coming down at this point. And also, all this is going on, we meet T-Bird and Fun Boy and the rest of the little party pals, as he calls them. They're getting ready to blow up an arcade. And,
like you do.
Yeah, just like you do. So we see them set a bomb, we see them smashing machines, we see him set the bomb, and then they go out, they're driving. While this is all going on, Eric's climbing out of the hole. He's trying to figure out what's going on. And we also see that Sarah is now friends with Albrecht, who's at a hot dog stand, and he's getting his hot dog. Sarah rides up, and he offers to buy her dinner. Then behind them, the building explodes, and that gets their attention pretty quick.
One quick question, though.
Yes.
It would be fair to say that Draven climbed out of his hole just to rock and roll.
I saw where you were going with that. I love that cover. Demo. It's technically a demo.
A demo recording of He's Back,
yes.
The Man Behind the Mask. That
done to what became the song Trick Bag by Alice Cooper.
What a title.
Available on Constrictor. So...
Why?
T-Bird and his gang get in a car. They're driving. They pass some cops, but the cops don't come after them. By this point, though, Eric has gone back to his original apartment building, and he's gone up. There's still caution tape on the door, and keep in mind, this is 1 year later, so the building is basically empty at this point.
They were already the only people living there, it appeared.
So he goes in, he finds his old cat, Gabriel, who bites him, and while this is going on, while he's inside his apartment, we get flashbacks of what happened, and Shelley was home alone. T-Bird bust in because we find out that Shelley was fighting eviction in that building owned by Top Dollar. And she was basically putting up that the building was not safe. There was a lot of code violations and all this stuff. And so Top Dollar sent them in to deal with her. So she gets attacked by them. She gets raped by them. Eric comes in. He gets stabbed as soon as he walks in the door, sees them basically assault Shelley. And then they end up putting him in front of the window, shooting him, and he falls out. While all this is happening, we're seeing the flashback, and he also jumps out of the window, grabs onto this glass and swings, and comes back in, and we see his hands completely heal themselves.
Which is a great show don't tell moment to really get across that he's some kind of supernatural being because his cut up hands heal.
Yeah.
And it's a classic moment of the movie, one of the most memorable images of him swinging through. It's all, I mean, any moment where Brandon Lee as the Crow is doing something physical became like everything to every teenage girl.
Well, hey, and speaking of physical activities, then we cut to the Pit, the local bar.
Ah, yes.
Where we find T-Bird and his party pals taking bullet shots. And no, that's not just the name of the shot. They are literally swallowing bullets and taking a shot with it.
Which I don't really recommend.
Would that, like, if you farted that, would that like blow out of you?
It would depend on your barrel size.
Yeah. Like, I just don't know, like, what that would essentially do to you.
I mean, it wouldn't be good.
No.
You'd probably get lead poisoning.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Depend. I don't know. Or it might just pass out as one whole thing.
That's a horrible thing. I just imagine just going to shit that out and just, like, shooting your toilet.
Like Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
I don't like the show. Bam.
So naturally, they're having a good time swallowing their bullets and also doing their fire it up, fire it up, fire it up. That draws over Darla, who is the waitress at the bar and also Funboy's girlfriend. And that's when we meet Funboy, Darla, the rest of the whole crew at this point.
Yes. And they're all just living their best, incredibly shady lives.
Yes.
Everything is so dirty and sad.
Yes.
Deeply
so.
so.
So later on, we also see that T-Bird has to go see Top Dollar, and he goes into the club, and we see that the band's performing. We also meet Grange, played by the late, great Tony Todd, who is Top Dollar's right-hand man, and he's like, is he busy? And he's like, he's having a meeting. Whereas he's actually just, I think, killed a prostitute or a young woman, I can't tell which, and they're getting ready to cut her eyes out.
Well, like you do.
Like you do.
Tony Todd's performance in this movie is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because everybody is larger than life except him.
Yeah.
He's
restrained.
is like their accountant.
Yeah.
Like he is just a very normal guy in a very abnormal situation.
Well, and I mean, you've got David Patrick Kelly, who plays T-Bird, which is he's the guy from The Warriors. He's in K-Pax. He's in Twin Peaks. I mean, he's in a bunch of stuff. You've got Lawrence Mason, who plays Tintin, and you've got Michael Massey, who plays Funboy from Tales of the Hood and a bunch of other things, and even Angel David, who plays Skank, which is a hell of a character.
Yeah.
So we meet Top Dollar and his sister, who's played by Bai Ling, whose name's Micah, and we just get a sense that Top Dollar is a guy you don't want to fuck with.
What makes you think that?
Well, the deep Michael Wincott voice, for one.
Yeah.
And the hair. And he also is looking at a snow globe, like a really gothic snow globe, and he basically says that my father told me childhood's over the moment you know you're going to die. That's like how we meet Top Dollar.
Yeah. And then he's like, making passes at his sister.
Half-sister. They're also smoking that chick's eyes at one point in the next scene, too.
Yeah. Yeah, these villains are something.
So, cutting back to Eric, he decides that he is going to get himself all crowed up, and he has flashbacks of what happened to Shelley. He gets rageful, punches the mirror, puts on his makeup while The Cure plays Burn, which is one of my favorite songs off the soundtrack.
He chooses the look of the Crow based on a mask I'm assuming he was going to wear on Halloween, which was a mime.
Yeah, mime mask. There's a name for it with it's the laughter and the sad face. Well,
that's the drama and comedy faces.
Yeah, but isn't there another name for it?
There could be.
Yeah, I think there is. But yeah, he punches the mirror. We slip into Burn by The Cure, and he's putting on the makeup. He's putting on his coat.
Comedy and tragedy mask.
Comedy and tragedy mask, okay. So then he is just jumping from rooftop to rooftop because he is now on the hunt for Tintin. And we meet Tintin, who is visiting Gideon's pawn shop because he's just robbed and or killed somebody. And Gideon is like, well, there's blood on this purse. I'll give you $20. That's the best I can give you. Him and Tintin have a relationship of selling stuff, but he knows exactly where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gideon kicks Tintin out and he locks up. And that's when Eric eventually reaches Gideon's pawn shop, knocks on the glass, and Gideon's like, we're closed. But that is not going to faze Mr. Draven. As he breaks through the glass, the Crow flies through and he quotes Poe as he walks in and says, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
That was a raven.
Yeah.
I'm just being a jerk.
Oh, speaking of ravens, wait for the trivia.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. So he basically says, I want to know where Tintin is. I'm looking for an engagement ring. And he's like, you're looking for a corner, shit for brains. Shoots him right in the hand. And that's when he looks at his hand, he's laughing, he's acting like it's hurt, and then he shows Gideon as his hands completely just closes up and laughs more.
Yeah, it's a pretty great like superhero-y moment.
Yeah. So he ends up getting it out of Gideon where the rings are, and he goes through, and we see him going through the box, and he finally is like, no, that's not it. And then he finds one, flashes back to him giving Shelley the ring, which was a really sweet proposal of her going into the attic, and he had everything set up for her. So they were together for years at this point.
Yeah.
Versus 2024, which was a week again.
I didn't even bring it up.
No, I wanted that movie to be good so bad.
I know, buddy.
I know.
And but watching it 2 more times, did it help? It made it better, right?
No, it didn't actually. No.
Oh,
Although
okay.
I will say the soundtrack on that movie's not bad. It's got some pretty good songs. Not as great as the Crow soundtrack. The Crow soundtrack from 94 is amazing. 2024 soundtrack has a couple good cuts. What?
I feel like the best response is to just look at you.
Just keep looking at me.
Yeah.
So he gets the ring and he confronts Gideon and he's like, oh wait, no, I'm actually getting ahead of myself. So he actually falls off a roof in front of Tintin, and that's how they get into the fight. So Tintin is like, what are you all paying up for, crackhead? Halloween's not till tomorrow. They get into a fight. Tintin confesses that, he's the one that killed Shelley, and then Draven stabs him with all of Tintin's knives because Tintin is a knife guy.
He throws knives mostly.
Yeah. And so he gets all his knives stabbed into him, and that's when he's like, do you like the coat? When he's seeing Gideon, confesses that he killed Tintin. He confided to me before he ran out of breath is the line. And so that's when he tells him that Fun Boy and all those guys hang out at the pit. So now his target is Fun Boy, and he's going to go find Fun Boy because he lives above the pit.
Right.
But he also, by this point, is pointing a shotgun at Gideon and pouring gas over the place and says, you have one chance to live. And he's like, take anything you want. And he's like, thank you. And then as he's walking out, he's like, they're going to erase you. You're nothing but street grease, motherfucker. And he's like, is that gasoline I smell? He dumps the rings into the shotgun and goes outside and blasts and blows up Gideon's pawn shop.
He sure does.
And Gideon makes it out in time.
Yes.
Just barely.
By the skin of his dick. And that's the thing. I mean, most of what this movie really is like the hyper romantic gothy moments.
Yeah.
With Draven kind of accepting his circumstance, and then pretty straightforward but very creative vengeance killings.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the Crow.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. So from this point, now he goes to see Fun Boy. Fun Boy and Darla are above the pit getting high in his apartment. Eric comes in and they're high, so they don't even think he's real. And he's like, you should take your bird and leave, Freako. And then once again, he's like, take your shot, Fun Boy. You got me dead, bang. Fun Boy shoots him in the hand. We get the whole laughing thing again. And that's when he's like, holy shit, don't you ever fucking die. Shoots him some more. And that's when I love it because he shoots Fun Boy right in the leg. And he goes, look what you did to my sheets.
Yeah. I remembered that even from when I was a kid. I thought that was hilarious.
So by this point, Darla is hiding in the bathroom. She's got a straight razor. Eric busts in and she tries to swing at him. He knocks the razor from her. And then he takes her arm and he's like, look, mother is the name of God on the lips of children. Your daughter's out on the street because we find out that she's actually taking care of Sarah.
Yeah, well, she's Sarah's mother.
Yeah. And so she is taking her arm and he sucks the morphine out of her arm as he's talking to her. And he's like, go out, your daughter's on the street, leaves. And then Fun Boy is on the ground. Eric goes to him with a syringe and he's like, no, don't do it. You're wasting it. By this point, Grange has now gotten to Fun Boy's apartment because Gideon has been found at the pit. And he's like, what's going on? Darla comes down screaming. And when he gets upstairs, he sees Eric go, shh, and ducks out the window. And then Fun Boy now has a syringe in his chest of blood of the Crow symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I mean, like I said, it's the imagery is strong. The revenge is very creative.
Yeah.
My comment wasn't to negate the film. It was more that there's a simplicity to the Crow.
There is.
Which is fine. It works very well for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's what 2024 is. I mean, there's a lot of things that 2024 is missing, but that is one especially where our villain is completely supernatural at this point. There's a whole storyline going on with him infecting younger people. And yeah, I could talk about that movie, but I don't want to.
You don't?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop bringing it up then.
It's hard for me not to.
I know. It's called trauma, David.
So,
I'm surprised that a year later on the anniversary of the Crow remake coming out, you didn't rise from the grave and get vengeance on
It's coming.
everybody.
It's coming.
There's
I think
time.
it's literally next month, actually. Yeah. Because wasn't it May? Because it was right before my birth. No, it was October, wasn't it?
I don't think it was October.
Fuck. Well, now I'm curious.
Okay,
Well,
I'll look it
yeah,
up.
you look it
You
up.
do your thing.
So anyway, by this point, Albrecht has now found Tintin's body, and he's like, this could be a gang hit. We don't suspect anything. And also, after Gideon's pawn shop blows up, Albrecht pulls up, and he stops Draven. And Draven immediately recognizes him, and he's like, stop or I'll shoot. And he's like, I thought the police always said freeze. And he's like, well, I'm the police, and I'm saying stop or I'll shoot. And I'm dead, so I move, is Draven's line. Basically, we find out that Draven still remembers Albrecht, still remembers what he did, and they kind of form an alliance at this point, but that's when he goes to see him at his apartment at right now.
Right. August 23rd.
August 23rd, okay.
That's the release date of the Superior Crow.
Superior Crow, I'll fucking kill you.
I know.
So he goes to see Albrecht, and Albrecht by this point has both alerted us as the audience that he has been put on the beat by Torres because he got a little too close to something back, and also he's kind of suspecting that something might be up with the anniversary of their death. He's even got a picture of Eric's band, Hangman's Curse, and he's drawing on him like the face makeup.
Yeah, trying to put 2 and 2 together.
So we we go to Albrecht's apartment, and he's got his hat on. He's looking at the picture, and Eric comes in, spooks him, and he's looking at the picture, and he's like, nice likeness. So he's figured it out.
This is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Because remember I said, like, it's funny, and then it's also funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because it is legitimately funny.
Yeah.
And then it's a little funny because it gets silly a few times. But this is one of those really great sequences.
Genuine.
Where he's just talking with him. I love, when he takes the cigarette from him and puffs it, says, you should smoke these. They'll kill you. But
my favorite though is when he comes in, he's like, you still have your hat on, because he doesn't have any pants on.
You still have your hat on. But the way he says it is so like matter of fact. And my point is that that these are the moments that make you see what a fucking movie star Brandon Lee was ready to be.
Yeah.
Because his levity, his humanity goes right through the lens and into you. And he had it.
He did.
And that's kind of the part that I hate about those sequences where he gets to say the funny thing here and there. Because, and like toward the end, when he has the little levity moments when he realizes he's, he could die again.
Yeah.
I love that stuff but I hate it because he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so clear, even if the Crow had come out without that accident and had been like a minor hit or even a kind of a flop, I think he still would have ended up getting cast in huge
gone on
movies
to do great things. And I mean, this scene in particular both builds the relationship for him and Albrecht, because not only do we find out that Albrecht stayed with Shelley the entire time while she was fighting for her life, and he gets that by he's like, Shelley, passed at this point, and by this point Eric goes up to grab his head, and he like sees his thoughts, sees his vision and everything, and he passes through it, and he's like, can I help you? He's like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you stayed with her. He's like, I saw her through your eyes. You stayed with her. And he's like, yeah, I was hoping she would come out of it and like give me something to go off of. And he basically says, little things to Shelley seem so trivial, but now I found that nothing's trivial, because we also find out that Albrecht and his wife are separating.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a moment for them to relate and everything. And my favorite point of this whole thing is he basically goes, so are you going to disappear now? And he's like, actually, I thought I'd use your front door.
Yeah, that's another great line.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought I'd use the front door. He's so good at saying those things so matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
And honestly, you couldn't have asked for a better person for these scenes, especially for your big feature debut, your huge feature debut, than being in these scenes with Ernie Hudson, who is just one of the best actors of a generation. I mean, he's so good at being subtle and earnest and authoritative all at once. He can be so many things at the same time. So their chemistry is just right there from the moment it starts. And I think that a lot of that has to do with Ernie Hudson's experience, because one of the best things you can do for a younger actor is put them with somebody with much more experience.
Absolutely.
Because they'll feed off each other. It's very rare that somebody's so bad they make an experienced actor worse. It's usually always the experienced actor makes everybody better.
Yeah, I actually got to meet Ernie Hudson back in 2000, probably been like 2010 or so. It would have been at Scarefest. And I was a huge Crow fan at that point too. So I asked him, what it was like working with Brandon. And he said Brandon was just so human, that he was just so fun to talk to. He had a great sense of humor, but also just loved being like there in the moment. And
Yeah.
that's why they had such great chemistry and even ad-libbed most of that scene too.
I believe that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So by this point now, he knows that he's got to go after T-Bird, Skank, and a couple other people. So T-Bird has gone to Top Dollar at this point, told him that one of his crew got himself perished. Tintin got all his blades stuck in his organs in alphabetical order.
I
One of
do
my
love that
favorite
line,
lines.
in alphabetical order.
And I love it because he's like, oh, well, a moment of silence for poor old Tintin does blow.
Yeah. Yeah, Top Dollar, he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah. So Top Dollar reminds him that he's working for him tomorrow, but also by this point, Gideon has been brought to Top Dollar because they want to know why his pawn shop exploded. And that's when he tells him that his name was Draven. He had a bird. And that's when Top Dollar's heard enough of him and sticks a sword right through Gideon's throat.
Yep.
Gideon
Yep.
played by the great Joe Polito, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Polito is fantastic in this movie, but fantastic in pretty much everything he's in.
Yeah, and he was just that guy for
Yeah.
like all of the 90s and the early 2000s.
So by this point, now he's moving on to T-Bird. So T-Bird and Skank have gone to T-Bird's car. They're waiting on Funboy to show up, but obviously Funboy's not going to show up.
Huh.
So that's when he sends Skank into the gas station for road beers and smokes.
I love the line road beers. Road beers, yeah.
Smokes, road beers, be quick. So fun story, deleted scene wise or chopped out of the movie entirely. When this was in the work print, there are two kids that go into this convenience store when Skank's in there that start robbing it. Skank gets shot. That's why he's limping when he's chasing the car.
Oh, yeah, he is limping.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, he gets shot by the kids that are trying to rob the convenience store. So anyway, Draven is actually in T-Bird's car, and T-Bird goes to light a smoke. The wind blows, and Draven pops out, points a gun on him, and says, who the fuck are you? And he's like, I'm your passenger. Drive.
Yeah.
So he's driving T-Bird through the city. They get the cops' attention by this point. But anyway, Funboy's chasing him, and he ends up stealing a car and also chasing him. Gets ran into by the cops. It's a whole fucking sequence.
Funboy, by the way, runs into the middle of the street to see what's going on, gets hit by a car. Or sorry,
Yeah.
what was his name?
Skank.
Skank. Oh, yeah, Skank. Skank gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
The guy gets out of the car and goes, "What's wrong with you? You hit my car.
You stupid ass hair. You hit,
hit
my car.
with your body."
Stupid ass hair. You hit my car.
But like, you're a pedestrian.
Yeah.
He's yelling at the pedestrian he
Yeah.
hit with his car, and then he steals
Steals
car.
his car,
Yeah.
hits him in the nuts, steals his
Very
car.
funny.
And because I love it, goddamn foreign cars. Because then you also have the cops. So T-Bird is racing because Draven's got his gun on him. They go past this alley, and the cops are having their coffee, and he's like, "What is this, creamer? I can't believe they can't even call it creamer legally." They speed past. He goes, "What the crap?" And then the cops just get coffee dumped on them. The
Yeah.
one's going, "Ah!" So by this point, they get away from the cops, and he takes T-Bird to the docks, and he ties him up in the car. He gets a road flare, and by this point, like, T-Bird's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, you can't be here. Like, we put you through the window. There ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back.
Yeah, and he says it so matter-of-factly.
He's so scared.
Yeah, terrified.
And T-Bird, through the movie, quotes Paradise Lost. Bash the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. He's doing this quote the whole time, like that they're attacking Shelley, and he also starts doing it here because Draven takes a road flare, lights it, throws it right into his crotch. So his crotch is going to be gone even before the car explodes, by the way, because those flames burn hot.
Experience, I think.
I looked it up one day.
Right. Of course.
So
College, man.
So by this point, T-Bird is now sent down the dock. Eric's also got gasoline going. The flare is going. There's a grenade in the trunk also. And by the time he goes off the dock, the car's already exploding before it hit the water.
Yeah.
And naturally, after he does his little explosion, he does a little thing with some gas on his end and lights the infamous crow in flames symbol.
Yeah, which is, I mean, one of the most memorable images
cool.
of the entire film.
Yes.
Is that big fiery crow.
So by this point, Albrecht has been brought to attention by tourists that they found T-Bird's car. They got to figure out who it is, but they don't know it's T-Bird. And he's like, "Oh, that's T-Bird. I guess he should have zigged when he should have zagged." Torres is pissed. He's like, "Who's the cartoon character with the painted face?" And he's like, "I don't know. You're the detective. You tell me." That ends up getting Albrecht suspended.
Yeah.
So Albrecht is now off the case.
Well, in theory.
In theory, yes. But also we see that the next morning, Sarah wakes up and her and Darla actually reconcile because she's trying to make breakfast and she's like, I don't like eggs. And she sees that Darla is trying.
Well, she also said, "I don't like eggs," to be a dick.
Yes.
Because it's not like her mom has ever been very good to her.
Yeah.
So she's really just kind of resistant to it because she's like, oh, great. Well, because her first thing is she's like, so what are you on now?
Yeah, what are you on now?
That's making
you mother of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, fuck it. Like, I wasn't ever good at this mommy shit. And Sarah stops her. She's like, over easy. I like my eggs over easy.
Which every little girl likes over easy eggs.
So also by this point, she sees that something has happened to Darla, and she's curious because she's seen glimpses of Eric around the city, but hasn't been able to confirm it. So she goes to the apartment. And she's like, we find that Eric's also burning some pictures and everything. He's also played the guitar by this point, as we've mentioned.
Yes, of course.
So he's burning pictures in the apartment. Sarah comes in, and we see the apartment's desolate as it was when he walked in and everything. And she's calling to him like, I care about you and Shelley. Why won't you talk to me? Screw you. I thought you loved me. And then he appears in the window, and he's like, Sarah, I do care. They run up and embrace. So now she's confirmed that he is back for the time being.
And she kind of just known.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So Top Dollar at this point decides that he's also going to hold a meeting because his people are dropping dead. And also now it's Devil's Night. They got to figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, you're having a staffing issue on Devil's Night.
Yeah, so they're having a staffing issue. And Eric's also playing guitar on the roof and then ends up smashing the guitar on the amp and breaking everything. And we cut to the meeting where My Life with Thrill Kill Cult is playing in the club below, by the way.
Of course. What the hell else would we play?
And Top Dollar's meeting is just all his henchmen at the table loading guns. All kinds of guns.
Yeah. No, it's very cartoony. But the villains are cartoony.
Yeah.
So it fits very well
Yeah.
in the rest of the film.
And by this point, they've rounded up Skank because they know that Draven is working his way back to the speed freak, as they call him.
Yeah.
And so they put Skank into the meeting, and Top Dollar basically says to his guys, well, Devil's Night's upon us, and, this year, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I had an idea, it's Rand, what they have now, Devil's Night's greeting cards, isn't that precious? Now, I guess, is like the best time to quit. And he's like, and the guys are like, well, that's no reason to quit. And he's like, no, it's the best time. But I want to have one more night. I want to light as many fires as we can.
Of course.
I want to look at you boys one more time and say, are we having fun or what?
What a romantic.
And he goes, hey, Skank, what do you feel like? I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook.
Oh, the way he says it, too, he just blurts it out because
Yeah.
he's like being as honest as
Yeah.
he could possibly be.
I feel like a worm on a big fucking hook. Well, boy, your mother must be damn proud of you.
No, it's a great line.
So the guys are all into it, and then all of a sudden, the bird flies in, and he's like, how'd that thing get in here? And then Draven walks in. He tells them that he just wants Skank, and Top Dollar's like, well, you can't have him. And Draven goes, well, I see you've made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it. Stands on the table in front of the guys, and Top Dollar goes, this is already boring the shit out of me. Kill him. And everybody fires into Draven.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter.
This was rumored to be the scene that they left in the movie of his demise for the longest time, by the way.
But that's the kind of thing, the urban legend stuff that happened all the time, though.
I found out what scene it was.
Yeah, wasn't it a flashback?
Flashback, yeah, It's a flashback because unfortunately, and I may have kept it in the trivia. Some of that stuff I kept out of the trivia because it's very sad in that sense. But Michael Massey, who plays Fun Boy, was the one who pulled the trigger, and he left acting for a long time.
Yeah,
it haunted him, and we actually lost him a couple of years back. I want to say,
yep,
very tragic. But by this point, so they've shot Eric. He's fallen under the table, and Top Dollar goes, "Well, that's that." One guy goes to look, and he's like, he's gone, and then gets shot in the head. And then this is probably one of the most violent sequences in the film.
Oh, yeah. No,
as I spit everywhere.
Well, I mean, where else are you going to spit?
Hey, so he's just shooting people, slicing people. If you want to see the violence that was cut out of this movie on the Blu-ray, the DVD, the 4K, is the deleted scene. And, like, he's chopping hands off. He's cutting people's throats with bottles. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's insane.
It's and just nonstop violence.
Nonstop. So naturally, the cops get called because a chair goes out a window with a guy in it into the club. So the club gets fleed. They're shooting all over the place. He catches up to Skank, and he's like, I guess it's not a good day to be a bad guy. Is it, Skank? And he's like, I'm not Skank. That's Skank over there. Skank's dead. And he's like, that's right. Throws Skank out of the window as he lands right on the top of a cop car.
Well, I mean, perfectly placed.
Perfectly placed. So the cops come in. They're like, that's all she wrote. Move, and we shoot. And he does a little dance towards the window, and they shoot. Now he's running on the rooftops. Like, all the cops in the city are after him.
Helicopter
running from rooftops.
Yep.
Helicopters going after him. And also Albrecht's on the street and ends up like landing right where he falls off the roof at.
Well, he's following him.
Yeah, he's following him.
He's following the helicopter.
Yeah.
Because he figures that's how he can follow the action.
Well, it even has the line where he's like, so many cops, you'd think they're giving away free donuts. Yeah. So they're driving through the street. At one point, he pulls over and Eric gets out and he looks over. He's like, no, you were going to do that. So by this point, Eric is wandering the streets. The cops are looking for him elsewhere. Top Dollar's also driving the streets, and he's just like, look at the city. There should be 1,000 fires going on right now. And Grange and Micah both are talking kind of about the crow. And like, that's the infamous Eric Draven. The crow's his power. Take the crow, you can take his power away. So he gets this idea of what they're going to do. They end up driving to a cemetery or driving to the church near the cemetery and waiting because Sarah is waiting at the grave. But before we get to that, there's a really sweet scene I love where Eric is just walking the street and he's like, Shelley, I'm coming home to you soon, because as he sees it, his time's almost done. Like,
yeah.
He's got the one day to basically do what he needs to do, and then he's going to be back.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's wandering the street, and he's like, Shelley, I'll see you soon. And then right as that happened, this flashlight falls on his face, and it's these kids in Halloween costumes running up to him, and they circle him and make him laugh, and there's a really sweet freeze frame before they go away.
Yeah, it's a nice little moment.
It is. It's a really good moment. He smiles. It's really sweet. So he finds Sarah at the cemetery asleep at his grave, and she's like, you're going to be mad at me. And he's like, actually, it's the safest place to be. And she's like, yeah, because everyone's dead. And he's like, it's really late, Sarah. And she's like, I wanted to wait for you. And he's like, I can't always say bye. Like, this is going to be something you're going to have to forgive me for. And then he ends up giving her Shelley's engagement ring. And he's like, Shelley, I gave this to Shelley. She would want you to have it. Sends her on her way. And then Grange grabs her, pulls her into the church. And that's when Top Dollar takes the ring off of her. And now they have their captive.
And now we're heading into the very
epic
violent finale. Yeah, an incredible finale that I always remembered.
Yeah.
Because of the gothic rooftops
Yeah.
and the pouring rain. It's iconic, without a doubt.
Yeah, Sarah has been abducted in the church at this point. She's calling to Eric because the crow can actually see a vision. So Eric sees what the crow sees, and he sees Sarah calling for help. So he walks into the church, the epic poster pose as he goes through the giant doors into the thing. And that's when we also see the crow fly in. Grange has a really serious rifle. Crow sits down on a perches on a pew, and Grange shoots it. And Eric's like, what the hell's going on? And then we have one of my favorite Top Dollar lines as he comes out and he goes, quick impression for you. Caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead.
Oh, I as a kid, that was like the epitome of humor.
So Eric tells him, give me the girl and I'll let you live. And he's like, let me think about that for a second. Fuck it. Shoots him. And by this point, Eric is just like, oh, well, no big deal. But then he actually sees that he's bleeding now. And it's not sealing. And he goes, oh, fuck. And falls over.
Yeah, he realizes that this invincibility is not permanent.
Not permanent. So by this point, the crow is limping and Grange is like, the crow's still alive. And he's like, well, then kill it, is what Top Dollar says. Grange is getting ready to fire on it. Then Albrecht comes in with his shotgun and his pistol, kills Grange. They get into a firefight as Micah takes Sarah up to the tower, and also Top Dollar flees as well. So that's when Albrecht goes over to him and he's like, got a great idea. You stand in front of me, let them shoot. When they run out of bullets, I'll arrest them. And Draven's like, it's a great idea, except for one thing. And he's like, I thought you were invincible. He's like, I was. I'm not anymore.
Yeah, and it's a great moment of levity in this like very tense showdown is where he says, yeah, it was.
I'm not anymore. So he's like, I guess you're going to need my help after all. They end up going up the steps, and Micah shoots on to Albrecht. He gets shot, and he's like, I thought you were going to stay behind me. And he's like, I messed up. So now Albrecht's out of the picture. He goes up and faces up against Micah, and she's like holding the crow, and she's like, this is all the power you ever had. Pity. Then the crow comes to life and pecks her fucking eyes out.
Which is, considering her obsession with eyes, is a delightful little turn of events.
Yeah. So gets her eyes pecked out, falls down the tower, and by this point, Top Dollar has Sarah out in the rain on top of the cathedral, and he's like, this isn't about her. This is about me and you, and he's like, all right, if you, Eric actually surrenders himself. He says, I'll get, you can have me, let her go. And he's like, I will. Throws Sarah to the side off, and she's hanging on to the cathedral at this point. And that's when they get into a giant sword fight, except Top Dollar has a sword and Eric has a lightning rod.
Yeah, it's a
or lightning catcher.
It's just a like a weather vane.
Weather vane, yeah, giant weather vane. So they're fighting in a storm on top of this church, and it's epic. There's lightning, there's rain, and naturally he gets the upper hand, but then Top Dollar betrays him and stabs him with a little blade. And that's when he's sitting down there. He's like, I'm sorry for spoiling your wedding plans, friend. Nothing in this town happens without my say so. I cleared that building. I will say, though, you put a smile on my face. I am going to miss you. And he's getting ready to gut Eric. And Eric looks at him and says, I have something for you. I don't want it anymore. Grabs onto Top Dollar's head and says, 30 hours of pain. all at once, all for you. He's basically passing everything that Shelley went through onto him.
Yeah.
And we see Top Dollar taking this pain and everything. He's completely disoriented, falls off of the church below onto a spike on top of a cathedral, or on top of a fucking gargoyle.
Yeah. And the blood starts pouring
out of the gargoyle.
Out of the gargoyle's gutter mouth.
Yes.
And what an image.
Yes.
But also like one of those moments in a movie where you're like, well, that guy's dead as a door.
That guy's
fuck.
dead as fuck.
Yeah, yep.
So Top Dollar is now out of the picture. Mike is out of the picture. Grange is out of the picture. Everybody that basically wronged Draven has been corrected at this point, I guess we could say.
Corrected. Okay. I like that.
So he rejoins Sarah. They gets her off of the ledge. They walk back down to Albrecht, and he's like, stay with him until the cops arrive. And Albrecht's like, give me a cigarette. Takes it, lights it, and he goes, yuck. I'm quitting now if I live.
Yeah.
And
I
Draven,
mean, for the record, he'd quit if he doesn't either.
Yeah, true.
I mean, he's going to win.
Draven thanks him. He's like, thank you. What you kept in here saved me. And he's like, I couldn't have done it without you. And by this point, they're talking at him and Sarah, and then they look back, and Eric's gone. And he's like, he does that sometimes.
Well, and that's a really beautiful moment, because what he did was care.
Yeah.
About her life.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up saving Draven, was being able to project that into somebody, project all that pain and suffering, which was caused by Top Dollar.
Yeah. And I mean, by this point, Eric is a mess. He's been stabbed, he's been shot, and he's feeling all of it now as he's basically limping back to Shelley's grave. He gets to her gravestone. He's like, I'm coming, Shelley. And then right behind him, Shelley walks into the cemetery, the spirit of Shelley, touches his head. They share a kiss. And then we see that the holes have filled themselves as they're back together. And we see also the next day, the crow is sitting on the tombstone with Shelley's wedding ring in its mouth. And Sarah comes up, takes it. And we hear basically Sarah say, oh my God, let me get this line right. Building burn, people die, lives forever. What is it? The people we love are stolen from us. The way to have them live on is to
never stop loving
them. Buildings burn, people die, real love is forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 1994's The Crow.
But which, I mean, okay, finale doesn't really hold a candle to 2024.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
But, yeah. But it's
what
fine.
happened in 2024? Go ahead.
I don't
Can
remember.
you recall?
No.
Oh, I can.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's your own fault.
Mm-hmm.
I like you're looking at me like it was me. You're looking at me like, well, I know because I had to watch it a bunch. It's like, dude, I only went the one time.
Yeah, fair enough. So, do you want to guess what the budget was on the film?
Wasn't it like 40?
Mm-mm.
It was lower?
Mm-hmm.
20?
23.
Oh, okay.
Estimated $23 million. Opening weekend, it takes in $11 million, which is May 15th, 1994. Worldwide, it ends up grossing $50 million. It was a huge hit on video. And that's what brought the numbers.
Well, but even back then, that would be a hit anyway.
Yeah.
50 against 20. Yeah. That was back before things got so out of hand spending wise.
Yeah.
And movie releases.
So filmed in Los Angeles, California, as well as Wilmington, North Carolina. Filming begins on February 1st of 93. First round of filming wraps March 31st, 93 with the death of Brandon Lee, unfortunately. Filming then resumes for reshoots May 26th of 93 and wraps June 3rd of 93. Body count in the film is 31.
Pretty handy.
James O'Barr originally began writing The Crow as a means to cope with the unexpected death of his fiancée, who was killed by a drunk driver. O'Barr had a meeting with a major studio to adapt the comic to a film, but O'Barr left the meeting after they had heard the pitch of their idea as a musical with Michael Jackson as the lead. O'Barr eventually oversaw 3 different script treatments before he ended up working with the writer and producers Jeff Most and John Shirley. Shirley would end up penning the 3rd and 4th drafts himself, earning himself the screenplay credit from the WGA. David J. Scow was brought in for rewrites.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Producer Edward Pressman was encouraged by Jeff Most to look into music video and commercial directors to give the film a specific look and feel. Eventually, he would land on Alex Proyas, while Paramount Pictures picked up distribution rights for the film.
Yeah, there was a lot going on with getting the movie made.
Paramount Pictures initially developed and financed this film, but after Brandon Lee's tragic death, which caused production to shut down with an incomplete film, they wrote the project off. Entertainment Media Investment Corporation was created for the purpose of buying the film and completing it using the groundbreaking CGI special effects and body doubles for Lee's scenes. The film would return to Paramount's hands in 2020 after the studio bought a minority stake in Miramax, which picked up distribution rights after Paramount left.
Oh, yeah.
River Phoenix, Christian Slater, and Johnny Depp turned down the role of Eric Draven.
Wow.
Yeah.
How the hell did they land on Brandon Lee then?
O'Barr wanted Depp. The studios wanted River Phoenix and Christian Slater.
Well, they wanted them both to play Draven.
Two Dravens.
Yeah, the tale of two Dravens.
Alex Proyas originally wanted to shoot the entire film in black and white, closer to the comics and using only color in Draven's flashback scenes with high contrast theme, but the studio executives didn't allow him to experiment with the approach. This made Proyas shoot much of the movie in monochromatic color theme mixed with red and dark gray.
Yeah, yeah, shooting things in black and white.
It's tough.
Well, the studios are terrified
Yeah.
of it because
Old movie.
well, yeah, people think it's old or
Yeah.
they just won't go to it. Do you remember when they did Young Frankenstein in black and white?
Mm-hmm.
They literally put in the trailers, it's in black and white, which is really not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Proyas said that Brandon Lee was unhappy with the way his face paint looked when the makeup department applied it to him before shooting. Lee and Proyas then agreed that it would be best if Lee applied his own makeup every night before going to bed so that when he woke up, his face paint would naturally look more worn out.
so I feel bad for the hotel maids.
No kidding, right?
Yeah. They were like, wow, this whore wore some really strange makeup.
Brace yourself, we're here. There was a lot of cost and corner cutting on set. One of the crew recalled they were trying to make a $30 million movie for $18 million. The film was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, because North Carolina was a right-to-work state. This allowed the producers to get away with pay, conditions, and crucially, production schedules that would have been nuked by unionized Hollywood. They began filming at night outdoors, but the aforementioned hurricane destroyed the sets, so they moved the production indoors without changing the schedule, as switching production from nights to days requires a 24-hour turnaround time. Mm-hmm. The harried production didn't have it, and it was still so cold that camera rails had to be de-iced during filming by riggers with blowtorches hiding out of the shot.
Jeez. Well, and for the record, doing it non-union, I mean, the unions would have worked those long hours.
Yeah.
It's just they would have been murdered by the overtime.
Yeah.
By the cost of the overtime.
Yeah. There were several accidents that befell production crew. The carpenter suffered serious burns on his upper body during the first day of filming. A manual worker had a screwdriver get embedded into his hand. An equipment truck burst into flames. A stuntman broke several ribs after falling through a roof. A rigger was horribly electrocuted. A disgruntled set sculptor went berserk and drove his car through the prop rooms, destroying it. And a hurricane destroyed several of the sets.
The only one in there that is not that unusual is the broken ribs.
Yeah.
Because stunt guys break ribs a lot.
Yeah.
My God, dude, that's ridiculous.
According to Empire magazine, cocaine abuse was rampant on set, with cameramen shooting whilst high, crew going into toilets to snort between shots, and people cutting around. One crew member recalls hearing the sound of a sneeze on set one day and an annoyed Brandon Lee quipping, "Someone just lost $50.
That's funny. That's really, really funny.
The production didn't have money or the space to shoot a car chase sequence, so they did it with miniatures instead.
I think it worked fine.
Yeah, I think so too. Darius Wolski achieved the look of the film by filming with sepia filter and then imprinting, adding lots of blue to eliminate the brown. This meant that the production designer Alex McDowell and art directors John Marshall and Simon Merton had to leave out any instance of color blue because it would get overly saturated. They had to be so strict that certain smoke machines had to be removed because the smoke produced had elements of blue in it. Blue was only used in flashbacks.
Wow. That would be a lot to manage.
According to James O'Barr, he didn't like casting Brandon Lee as the main lead for his comic book adaptation. At the time, he had only seen him in Showdown in Little Tokyo and feared it would end up like a kung fu movie and go straight to video. But he was thrilled when he first met Brandon on the set with the makeup and the crow outfit. He was amazed by Brandon's take on the character when he spoke the exact line from the comics.
I mean, he owned it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Brandon Lee lost 40 pounds for the role. Alex Proyas recalled that he and Brandon Lee had a long talk before filming began about how the main character, Eric Draven, should be presented as a well-oiled machine that came back from the dead, already built for the sole purpose of killing. Alex specifically said that Eric should be someone who was made of nothing but muscle and bone. Brandon agreed as well, so he devoted himself to an intense regimen of diet and exercise to achieve a specific athletic look before filming began.
I mean, and luckily, it's not like he was a slouch anyway. He was always athletic.
He was always athletic. While most of the scenes of Brandon Lee's death were digitally composed, there was in fact a mask that had been made directly from a mold of Lee's face. It had been intended for the use of stunt doubles if needed. They attempted to create the scenes using this mask. However, the cast and crew were far too unsettled by the prop that it was destroyed, and digital means were used to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
If you watch Shudder's Cursed Films, they show pictures of the stunt guy in the mask.
I've seen it. It's creepy.
It's very creepy.
Yeah.
The phrase, "it can't rain all the time," is inspired by an encounter that James O'Barr had as a teen while living in Shepherd, Michigan, prior to enlisting in the Marines. Down on his luck, O'Barr found himself unable to pay for groceries. Frustrated, he decided to just buy rice, to which the man in line of him stated, "You can't eat rice all the time." While paying O'Barr's groceries, the man turned out to be Lee Coughlin, the mayor of Shepherd himself, and is also the basis of the character Albrecht.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. One of Brandon Lee's favorite movies was The Warriors from 1979, which created a breakout role for classically trained actor David Patrick Kelly, who plays T-Bird in the film. So naturally, Lee was overjoyed to have a great character actor known for his villainous roles starring in his own movie.
I could see that. That's really cool.
The latter part of the scene in Albrecht's apartment was ad-libbed by Brandon Lee and Ernie Hudson. The line about Shelley, "Believe me, nothing is trivial," was not in the script.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a thing.
Even though the movie based on the comic is called The Crow, none of the birds used in the film were actually crows.
No.
All of them were in fact ravens, which are much larger than crows and have longer, more impressive beaks.
Oh yeah, and from what I heard, they're easier to train.
Yeah.
So that's a big element.
Eric's shirt is cut down the back when he first emerges from the grave. This is a common practice in funeral homes as it makes the dead easier to dress.
Yes. Oof, I didn't even notice that detail.
Yeah. James O'Barr constantly listened to the songs of Joy Division and The Cure while shaping and creating the graphic novel of the film is based on. He was delighted when Robert Smith of The Cure agreed to write an original song for the movie. Although a hugely popular song introducing legions of new fans to The Cure, they only performed Burn live once, 19 years after the film's release, even though it was often requested. When a fan asked if they'd play the song at a concert, bassist Simon Gollop replied, "Did we do that one for a soundtrack? I don't remember it." The Cure has since played the song on their 2016 North American tour.
Wow.
Yeah. Although the tone of the film is very similar to the comic, there were many changes in the comics. Top Dollar is a member of T-Bird's gang as opposed to heading up the crime in the city. Micah and Grange were also not present in the comic, and there was never any mention about the Crow being a power source. Also in the comics, Skank was not involved in the murders of Eric and Shelley. Instead, a character named Tom Tom was. Sarah also served as a minor role, first meeting Eric after his death, and Albrecht, as he appears in the movie, is a combination of street officer named Albrecht in the comics and police captain Hook. Another major change is Eric is a mechanic in the comic, and his last name was never mentioned. He was changed to a musician as an homage to all the music references that James O'Barr had in the comic. In the comic, the murders are actually a twist of bad luck with T-Bird's gang while high on drugs, ambushing Eric and Shelley when their car breaks down. And in the comic, Eric is actually the one who lasts for 30 hours of intensive care, with most of the events implied as possibly being a revenge fantasy as he lies in a coma.
Okay. I mean, that all checks out.
Yeah. The following scenes were completed after Brandon Lee's death as follows. During the scene where Eric Draven first enters the apartment after digging himself out of the grave, footage of Lee walking through an alley in the rain was digitally composed in the scenes where he walks through the doorway. Computer technology added drops of water to the door frame to make the water on his back not seem out of place. The face in the smashed mirror was Lee's. It was digitally altered to fit the shards. The shot of Eric falling from the window was made by digitally composing Lee's face, complete with simulated blood, onto a body double. The scene where Eric puts on his makeup was filmed using the double. The image of Eric walking towards the window with the crow on his shoulder was a double with Lee's face digitally added after lightning flashes. And when Sarah visits the apartment, we never see Eric's face. It is actually a double.
I never realized it was that. I thought it was a lot less, to be honest.
The film was submitted to the MPAA 5 times before receiving an R rating. Each previous time resulted in an NC-17.
It's a pretty violent movie.
Yeah. The song, A Grave Mistake, from American metal band Ice Nine Kills, is based on the story of the film. The song comes from The Silver Scream, the band's 5th album. Each song on the record comes from a different horror movie. Cannot recommend both of those albums enough. And finally, The Crow was ranked 37th in IGN's top 100 comic book heroes. In 2005, creator James O'Barr claimed The Crow was the best-selling independent black and white graphic novel of all time, translated into almost a dozen languages, and has sold over 250,000 copies worldwide. The second American comic book to get its author the Storyteller Award by the Angoulême International Comics Festival, held annually in Angoulême, France.
Wow, okay. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts on 1994's The Crow?
That's a hard question for me, because I don't know if it's quintessential enough to me to be a buy it, but it is an important movie to watch. It really represents the time frame very well.
Yeah.
It became such a major part of pop culture. So I don't know if you need to own it, but you definitely, it's more than worth a rental.
Absolutely.
To if you've never seen The Crow, it's a movie you should desperately see.
Yeah. It's a buy it for me simply for the fact that unfortunately it is Lee's last performance. I think the soundtrack is unbeatable. It's got great action sequences. It's a superhero movie to the extent that we don't really get like this anymore, I would say.
And we just had one.
Well, I mean, I will kill you. I will kill you.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I mean, it is 90s as fuck.
Yes.
It is.
Oh, yes.
It is just that. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. It is that concept of a revenge tale that we've seen 1,000 times, obviously, but in this sense of the way that it's executed and the emotion that it has and the performances that it has, I think the movie just has a lasting power that is carried even to generations today now.
Well, I think you're right. And having it be Lee's such a tragic story of Lee's final performance has given it a lot of staying power with a lot of people, and I think that's rightfully so.
Absolutely has. So we always like to end the show with a couple of recommendations. My first one this week is 1998's Blade, which is currently rentable on Prime and Fandango. Half vampire, half mortal man becomes the protector of a mortal race while slaying evil vampires. If you haven't seen Blade in a while, it's definitely worth a rewatch. A lot of fun. And second, I'm going to go with 1990's Darkman, currently available on AMC Plus, rentable through Prime and Fandango as well. A brilliant scientist left for dead returns to exact revenge on the people who burned him alive.
Darkman would have been my pick.
Darkman, yeah, I have a feeling.
That would have been my pick.
I'm sorry.
So I had to rack my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
About what would my pick be, and I think you're going to be surprised.
Okay.
Because I think my pick would probably be 2018's Mandy.
Solid.
Because it's about love and revenge.
Yeah.
It's visually so striking. For those who've not seen it,
God, that's a good one.
It stars Nicolas Cage.
That's a good pick.
The enchanted lives of a couple in a secluded forest are brutally shattered by a nightmarish hippie cult and their demon biker henchmen, propelling a man into a spiraling, surreal rampage of vengeance. That's maybe one of the best descriptions of a movie I've ever heard. That's so accurate. It's a hard movie to describe, but a fascinating movie to watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that would be my pick.
I will throw another recommendation out there that's basically a female crow called Avenged, that is about a woman, a deaf woman that is driving back from the country to meet up with her fiance. She ends up having her car break down. She gets attacked by these people and has a Native American spirit bring her back and to seek vengeance. And it's a really, really good flick. Very violent, very horror based, extremely violent, actually, the more I think about it. But yeah, Avenged, really good flick as well. Should we check in with our buddies to see what they thought of the movie?
I suppose so. If I didn't I pull that up?
I don't know.
Here it is. You know what? You're the one who sends me this stuff, and I have to figure it out.
This is the first time I sent you 2 videos that I wanted to pull up on the show.
Yeah, because you realized you could be a bigger prick than ever.
Hey, you know.
So you're him, huh?
Oh,
the Avenger.
There we go. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Brandon Lee plays the Crow in that scene, a murdered rock musician who comes back to life and vows revenge against the evil mastermind behind a gang of thugs who killed him and his fiancée on the eve of their wedding. Well, as everybody knows, Brandon Lee himself was accidentally shot dead during the filming of The Crow when a prop gun mistakenly had a lethal charge in it. And that adds a special poignance to this movie because not only does the story ironically mirror real life, but Lee is so good here and the movie is so good that this could easily have been the beginning of a starring career for him. Just look at the visual mood of this scene where Lee, as the Crow, bursts from the grave and prepares himself for his mission of vengeance.
Oh yeah, I'm going to talk over that so you don't get copyright must be tough. We still might, but you know. Every night I fall, something, though. We're going to skip ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. One of the men responsible for the 2 murders.
There we go. Just explosions.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there's the big fiery crow.
The story of The Crow is a pretty straightforward revenge fantasy. The murder man comes back from the grave and goes looking for those who destroyed his life. What's special about the film is its look, its style, and its energy. Director Alex Proyas has put together sort of a cross between Blade Runner and Batman, but darker, grungier, and more threatening than either one of those pictures. And Brandon Lee, in his last performance, shows here that he clearly had the potential to become a major action star.
Well, I don't compare this film favorably to either Blade Runner or Batman. I don't think it's as good as either one of those.
Ooh.
And I think it does borrow from Blade Runner in particular, the physical look. And that I think Blade Runner is going to go down in history as one of the most influential art-directed pictures of all time. And I do think that the story is, as you described it, straightforward revenge fantasy. What I do like the comic book camera angles. I do like him. I think he is charismatic, but I can't recommend the picture because the story bored me so much, Rob.
Wow!
You, Gene. Jesus.
Go, Gene,
I
go.
think that this is a very daring attempt to film a comic book.
Yeah.
I think that the whole movie is a piece. For example, all the heavy metal music on the soundtrack is very effective. The look of the film is sensational when the camera is flying over that city, which is made out of miniatures.
For example, I thought that the stories in both the pictures you named were more complicated. Both Batman, another comic book story, and also
how was that
Blade
complicated?
Runner story was
Batman's
so
actually pretty
complicated.
complicated. There's a lot going on. Bruce Wayne, his love interest, Joker.
That isn't the point here, Gene. This movie is an experience. It's not a story. All these stories are made up anyway.
Why did you describe it as a straightforward revenge fantasy? I'm using your own words. Because you know that the story is.
I wasn't criticizing it. I was describing it.
I'm criticizing it because with all of the good looks in the picture, it got very repetitive for me.
You go to see a movie like The Crow in order to have a nice subtle.
No, I go to see a movie like The Crow have some complication of the story so that all that I don't see is the rain, and the visual look of the picture.
Okay, well, I saw
Damn. That was brutal.
That was brutal.
I mean, I take back all of my review. I'm with Siskel on this one.
I will leap over this table.
No, but I get what he's coming at, but like, I mean, I think Ebert is onto something more.
Yeah.
Just because... I think the problem is Siskel wasn't interested in the style.
No.
He was more interested in strictly the substance. And I even opened my points with saying that it's relatively simple.
Yeah.
It's just executed in a really amazing way, and you've got a really charismatic lead.
Yeah.
So, and I do think, again, like I said, time has been incredibly kind.
Very much so.
To revealing how poignant this movie would be for like all of Gen X.
Yeah.
So I could see where Siskel's coming from. I mean, he didn't say it was a big pile of poop, although he did say he was bored.
Yeah.
Which is, damn.
I think I think that Ebert nails it though. Just the style of the movie in and of itself is nothing that I've seen in a good while. And I mean, and that could be the fact that the movie's from '94. And I get
well, I was gonna say, I mean, everybody was doing that for a minute.
Yeah, they were
a bit here and there.
But it's
Dark
just like
City
had. No, Dark City especially, yeah. But this is one that it's just like every time I watch it, I'm sucked into the world that this movie creates.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, the colorful characters, the not so colorful literal world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that really pulls you in.
Yeah.
And I do think that the story's simple, but I think that it's kind of like there's a beauty to the simplicity.
Yeah.
That it's just about love making death not really a factor.
Well, and like you and I said off mic, it's unfortunate to say that I think the movie was made lasting and stronger by Lee's passing.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because they had to cut the corners that they did and do the things that they had to do. One of which we should mention is that Michael Berryman was originally in the film as the Skull Cowboy. And the Skull Cowboy in the text of The Crow is the Crow guide, basically. He's the spirit guide to him and tells him what's going on. So there is footage out there of Michael Berryman as the Skull Cowboy, but when Lee unfortunately passed, they couldn't shoot the remainder of the scenes with him, so they just completely cut him out of the movie entirely.
Honestly, the thing that surprised me the most about watching that clip was I'm shocked that Gene Siskel didn't rise from the dead on the day the remake came out to get vengeance for the original movie.
Yeah, right.
You know, in
R.I.P. Siskel.
Dave is angry. Do you want me to get out a Ouija board? We can see what he thought of the remake.
No,
maybe it'll make you feel better. Okay. I was just offering. I haven't
even seen let me see what the IMDb rating is on that right now, because it was low for
Hateful
a bit.
Dave
4.7. No, it's not Snow White low, but it's low.
It's Lord have mercy.
So do we have any emails this week?
I know for a fact we have one.
Okay.
Because this feeds into something I wanted to mention on the show anyway. But before I do, I want to remind you guys, you can contact us by either sending an email to doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or heading to doyouevenmovie.com and sending us a message. So this one came from Paul. Paul says, "Sup guys, longtime listener, first time emailer.
Awesome.
Firstly, love the show week in and week out. I get so many recs from y'all and even more from Dave's Letterboxd. Anyways, I was just reaching out for a link to your store. I'd love to buy a shirt, but when I click on the store pod pages, it takes me to Store Envy's main page, and I can't find a shirt. Well, the good news is I fixed it. I have no idea why that happened.
Yeah. Shout out to our buddy Mike who brought that to our attention, by the way.
While I was in the midst of working a convention all weekend.
Yeah.
But when I got home, I took a look at it, especially when I saw that email, which I got earlier today, the day we're recording this. And I was able to fix it. As far as I can tell, it's working. So all you have to do if you want to grab a shirt, which we would very much appreciate the support, all you have to do is go to doyouevenmovie.com and click on store. There's a t-shirt as well as a water bottle and a latte mug because I just thought it was neat.
Fair enough.
So, so doyouevenmovie.com, and we would love to hear from you guys.
Yes.
So doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube, and we'd be happy to hear from you there, or even comment over on Spotify.
Yes.
If that's the kind of thing you're into. And we want to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, because every Tuesday we bring you a new episode of Do You Even Movie?
We do.
If you're listening to us via podcast, make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. And if you can leave us a rating, we do appreciate it.
Yes.
So even if you want to be shitty,
I mean, you could absolutely.
Well, we got one.
I mean, if you want to hear me be shitty on a little bit more of The Crow, our buddy Mike Askewy on This Week in Geek, we did an episode all about The Crow and its sequels. So we talked about City of Angels, we talked about Salvation, we talked about Wicked Prayer, we talked about the TV series. So you can find that episode anywhere that This Week in Geek is carried at, and that is where I really go off on some things.
Oh, wow. I mean, thank God you were so
restrained here.
Yeah, thank goodness.
No, I didn't start the show talking about a mental breakdown, basically.
Boy,
it's fine.
howdy. No. It would only... It's nothing a spike bracelet can't fix, right?
So this wraps up April showers, and fuck you. This wraps up April showers, so that means we are moving into May. Would you like to know what we are talking about the month of May and also kicking May off with?
Sure.
So we unfortunately in 2025 have lost some big names that have had some great careers and great films. So we are doing a theme called May They Rest in Peace, where each week we are going to feature one of the recently passed and one of their favorite movies, or one of our favorite movies from them. Kicking it off with the respect to the late, great Michelle Trachtenberg with 1996's Harriet the Spy.
One of my first favorite movies as a kid.
Currently available on Paramount Plus, does not have a Blu-ray at this time, even though I argued with him that there was, but it is.
Yeah, it was funny because I was so adamant, because I was like, Dave, if there was a Blu-ray,
it would be on Amazon. Yeah.
It would be on my shelf.
Yeah. I swear that it was announced or something. I don't know, but
I got nothing for you.
Because Good Burger's on Blu-ray. They've got, I think the Rugrats movie's even on Blu-ray now too. So I mean, they're going through some of their Nick catalog. So this one's got to come soon, I would think.
I would
especially
think.
now.
Oh, sure.
Unfortunately, yeah. But yeah, we'll be talking about Harriet the Spy from 1996 next week. Currently available on Paramount Plus. So if you want to revisit and cry along with us, that's what we're talking about next week.
What a sales pitch!
Yeah.
So on that note, it's time to take off. So thank you guys so much for joining us for Do You Even Movie? We really do appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed, yada, yada, etc., etc. And Dave, I'm going to let you have the final word.
Okay.
Because this is like one of your favorite movies of all time.
No, absolutely.
If we talked about Terminator 2, I'd hope you'd just shut your fucking hole
my fucking mouth
in your life.
Yeah, that's fair.
For once in your life.
So to wrap up, I would say if you have not seen The Crow, whether if you've never seen The Crow or if you haven't seen it in a while, it's absolutely worth a rewatch. It's a great time to check it out now with the 4K transfer as well too. And I think the only way for me to say this and end this is it can't rain all the time.
Or at least not next
Not
Tuesday.